Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Bulsh *T. Sun Rue glanced at Duan Ling Tian in disdain, and then he sneered. One move. I only need one move, and I'll be able to send you to hell. As soon as Sun Rue finished speaking, his body flashed out as if he'd transformed into a bolt of lightning. He flashed past like a bolt of lightning, and it gave rise to a wave of sounds of air exploding that were like thunderclaps, and the sounds swept towards Duan Ling Tian. Swish! A spirit sword appeared out of thin air in Sun Rue's hand, and it shot straight out with raging origin energy, seemed to have transformed into a venomous snake that had gone berserk and fiercely bit towards Duan Ling Tian. Around the venomous snake's body was fierce and swift azure energy that followed it like a shadow. In the sky, an ancient horned dragon silhouettes condensed into form and flashed out. Whereas beside the ancient horned dragon silhouette was another 740 ancient mammoth silhouettes that followed out behind the ancient horned dragon silhouette. Sixth level of the void prying stage. In practically an instant, Luo Rong and Qi Ming were the first to react, and their faces paled. They were able to discern that Sun Rue's cultivation was at the 6th level of the void prying stage, whereas the spirit sword in Sun Rue's hand was a grade 7 spirit sword. As for the force Sun Rue had comprehended, it was the half-step advanced wind force. Die! Zhang Heng's face revealed a frenzied smile, and his eyes were filled with extreme hatred. The humiliation Duan Ling Tian gave him at the cage battle arena half a month ago was something he wouldn't be able to forget for his entire lifetime, and seeing Duan Ling Tian being killed with his own two eyes was undoubtedly the happiest thing in his entire life. Duan Ling Tian. Whereas Luo Zhan and Chun Xiao Shui, who were concerned about Duan Ling Tian, both had expressions that were grim. Both of them had never imagined that the Black Fiend sect Sun Rue would actually be a 6th-level void prying stage martial artist. If they knew earlier, they would have spared no cost in persuading Duan Ling Tian to avoid the battle. After all, a wise man knows when to retreat. But unfortunately, it was already spilt milk. But they weren't worried about Duan Ling Tian's safety, because they knew that if Duan Ling Tian's life was in danger, Luo Rong would absolutely not stand idly by. In Luo Rong's herd, Duan Ling Tian was his teacher in the Tao of weapons refinement, and Duan Ling Tian's status in his heart was extraordinary. The facts were indeed like this. At this moment, Luo Rong's eyes had already squinted, the origin energy in his entire body was being accumulated, and he was prepared to make a move at any time. To him, so long as he was able to save Duan Ling Tian, then any other thing wasn't important. But he was quickly struck dumb. Heaven! What did I see? Luo Rong saw that when Sun Rue's sword that flashed out and transformed into a venomous snake that bit towards Duan Ling Tian was very close to Duan Ling Tian. Whoosh! Sun Rue abruptly changed his direction, and the sword in his hand dragged out a gorgeous streak in the air as it actually flashed towards the air at the Duan Ling Tian's side. Swish! His sword struck out and pierced into the air. This scene caused all the people present to be dumbstruck. As far as they were concerned, Sun Rue seemed as if he intentionally avoided Duan Ling Tian and pierced towards the air. Why did Sun Rue show mercy to Duan Ling Tian? Many people were puzzled. Amongst them included the Black Fiend sects Qiu Cheng and Chai Jin. What is senior brother doing? Chai Jin's face went gloomy. Why didn't he directly kill Duan Ling Tian? With his strength, that sword strike from before was sufficient to kill Duan Ling Tian. Qiu Cheng frowned. He naturally hoped that his disciple was able to kill Duan Ling Tian. Otherwise, Duan Ling Tian staying alive was undoubtedly a latent threat for the Black Fiend sect. This threat couldn't perhaps be considered to be nothing now. But after another few years, then even if Duan Ling Tian didn't rely on the assistance of the strength of others, just Duan Ling Tian alone would probably be sufficient to annihilate the Black Fiend sect. Right when everyone thought that Sun Rue had showed mercy. Ha ha ha. After Sun Rue's sword flashed out and pierced the air by Duan Ling Tian's side, he stood on the spot and stared at the ground by Duan Ling Tian's side as he laughed loudly and arrogantly. Duan Ling Tian, I've said it before, I only need a single move to kill you. You can't even withstand a single strike of mine, You're truly useless." In the eyes of the spectators, Sun Rue was talking to the air, and this scene caused all the people present felt their skin creep. Has Sun Rue gone mad? Many people were stunned. Could it be that Duan Ling Tian utilized his demonic technique? There were also some Dragon and Phoenix Academy students that couldn't help but be shocked in their hearts, and they guessed in their hearts. Demonic technique. Flute Fairy, Ziyan's beautiful face instantly went pale. She'd always deeply believed that Duan Ling Tian knew demonic techniques. Because her brother, Zither Young Master, was a victim, and she was a victim as well. I almost forgot this fellow knows demonic techniques. Luo Zhan and Chun Xiao Shui couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when they saw this scene. What's going on? Prince Sheng and the little prince both had dumbstruck expressions as they utterly didn't know what had happened before them. Senior brother, Sun Rue, whereas Chai Jin and Xiu Cheng of the Black Fiend sect send their voice transmissions to pierce into Sun Rue's ears, wanting to awaken Sun Rue. However, it was as if Sun Rue had been possessed, and he remained unmoved. You escaped calamity 8 years ago. Now that I've killed you today, the ending is still the same. Sun Rue looked at the empty ground with a chilly expression. This scene caused most people present to be speechless. Has Sun Rue lost his mind? Many people had strange gazes. Presently, amongst the people present, it was probably only Duan Ling Tian that knew what was going on. Early on when Sun Rue attacked him, he'd successfully executed his soul skill, Thousand Illusion, through the soul brand at the depths of his soul. Now, Sun Rue was within the illusory space that he'd created and had killed him in the illusory space. Whereas when Sun Rue was enjoying the delight of killing him, whoosh, Duan Ling Tian made his move and instantly arrived by Sun Rue's side. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian didn't even have the intention to use a spirit weapon, and with a raise of his hand, he pointed out towards Sun Rue's throat. Tempest Point. The point force flashed out from the tip of Duan Ling Tian's finger. It caused a wave of piercing howls that were ear-deafening, and it was as if his point force was assisted by the gods. Sun Rue, when the Supreme Elder of the Black Fiend sect, Qiu Cheng, saw that his voice transmission was unable to awaken Sun Rue, his face went gloomy and he hurriedly shouted out. He wanted to use this to awaken Sun Rue. However, the present Sun Rue still remained unmoved, under the gazes of disbelief of the surrounding crowd of spectators. Swish! Duan Ling Tian's pure origin energy point force that contained the strength of 6,000 ancient mammoths easily pierced through Sun Rue's throat. Pooh! Fresh blood sprayed out. A hideous bloody hole appeared on Sun Rue's neck. Subsequently, Sun Rue's eyes that were originally dim had recovered their luster at this moment. At this moment, the effect of the soul skill, Thousand Illusion, that Duan Ling Tian utilized had vanished completely. After Sun Rue left the illusory space, the first thing that entered his eyes was Duan Ling Tian who stood before him, and his pupils abruptly constricted. At the instant before his death, Sun Rue was still unable to wrap his head around it. How did a person that had obviously died at his hands suddenly come back to life? Bang! Sun Rue fell to the ground as blood gushed out like a pillar from his throat. His eyes that contained everlasting regret were glared wide open, and he was completely devoid of any signs of life. Sun Rue, a 6th-level void-prying stage martial artist, was killed by Duan Ling Tian with a single blow. No matter what happened in between, Sun Rue had indeed died at the hands of Duan Ling Tian. The scene was deathly silent. The scene before their eyes gave them a feeling as if they were dreaming. Sun Rue, senior brother. The expressions of the Black Fiend sects Chai Jin and Xiu Cheng went gloomy when they saw Sun Rue was killed, and their eyes were instantly tainted with a bloody red color. They were enraged to the point their bodies trembled intensely, yet they didn't dare take action. It was only because they knew that if they dared make a move, they would die without a doubt. This place wasn't their Black Fiend sect. Duan Ling Tian stood there with a carefree expression as he calmly looked at Sun Rue's corpse. After a long time, Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh of relief. The resentment because of Sun Rue that had accumulated bit by bit over these past 8 years had completely vanished. That person that had once wantonly trampled on his pride was dead. Completely dead. At this moment, it was as if an enormous stone that was pressing down on his heart was shattered by him. The surroundings were deathly silent. Silent to the point it was terrifying. The gazes of everyone had descended onto Sun Rue's corpse. Even if it was Luo Zhan and Qin Shaoshui, who knew that Duan Ling Tian knew demonic techniques. Although they were filled with confidence towards Duan Ling Tian, when they saw Sun Rue really being killed by Duan Ling Tian, they couldn't help but feel shocked. This was a 6th-level void prying stage martial artist. A 6th-level void prying stage martial artist was killed by Duan Ling Tian in the blink of an eye. The people who didn't know of Duan Ling Tian's abilities were shocked even more. Of course, even more people felt that it was Duan Ling Tian's luck. After all, the soul skill, 1,000 illusions, was too difficult to understand for them. Duan Ling Tian's luck is really good. He just happened to encounter Sun Rue losing his mind. Yes, this luck is simply heaven-defying. Sun Rue is unfortunate as well. He just had to lose his mind at the most critical moment and give away his life. The surrounding crowd of spectators discussed animatedly. I never imagined that Duan Ling Tian's luck was actually so good. Zhang Heng's face was extremely gloomy. He originally thought that Sun Rue would be able to kill Duan Ling Tian. Unexpectedly, Sun Rue actually lost his mind and was killed by Duan Ling Tian instead. This caused the delight in Zhang Heng's heart to vanish completely. Sun Rue was truly useless. Prince Sheng's expression was extremely unsightly as well. Since the moment that Duan Ling Tian had offended the Prince Sheng's estate, he'd wished for nothing more than to kill Duan Ling Tian and celebrate after. Luck? Duan Ling Tian naturally heard the whispered discussions that came from the surroundings. He didn't have any reaction towards this, and he had no intention of explaining. Presently, my cultivation is at the 4th level of the void prying stage, and my spiritual force has been pushed to the 6th level of the void prying stage. So long as it isn't a 6th level void prying stage inscription master, or a martial artist at the 7th level of the void prying stage or above, it would be difficult for my opponent to withstand the soul skill I execute. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. Almost 1 year ago, during the first experience mission of the Dragon and Phoenix Academy, Duan Ling Tian had obtained a soul pearl from a bandit leader in Blackwind Ridge, and his spiritual force had advanced to the extent it was 2 levels higher than his cultivation. At that time, his cultivation was at the 1st level of the void prying stage, and his spiritual force had been pushed to the 3rd level of the void prying stage. It could be said that it was all thanks to the contribution of the soul pearl that he was able to kill Sun Rue today. Sun Rue's cultivation was at the 6th level of the void prying stage, and Sun Rue wasn't an inscription master. All this was also the reason he dared to agree to Sun Rue's challenge, and this was something he'd concluded since long ago. Demonic technique. Demonic technique. In his sudden realization, Chai Jin couldn't help but recall how Flute Fairy, Ziyin, lost her composure in the Dragon and Phoenix Academy 1 year ago. At that time, Flute Fairy said repeatedly that Duan Ling Tian knew demonic techniques. But the crowd of people, including him, didn't believe it. When he thought back to it now, all of this just happened to fit. Lost his mind. He naturally knew his senior brother didn't lose his mind, and it was precisely because of this that when he looked at Duan Ling Tian once again, his gaze was filled with terror. Demonic technique? The expression of the supreme elder of the Black Fiend sect, Xiao Cheng, went grim when he heard the words of Chai Jin, who was supporting him, and he hurriedly asked in a low voice, "Jin, what exactly is going on?" Chai Jin told Xiao Cheng of his guess in a low voice. Xiao Cheng's pupils constricted. Looks like Sun Rue didn't die unjustly. Xiao Cheng let out a mouthful of cold air, and the gaze he shot at the violet-clothed young man in the distance was filled with fear. Unfortunately, disciple is useless, and I'm probably unable to avenge senior brother, Chai Jin said bitterly. Jin. Xiao Cheng's gaze suddenly became fierce, and he shouted in a low voice. You must completely forget the incident from today. You must not offend Duan Ling Tian in the future. Otherwise, it will only bring a calamity to you and the Black Fiend sect. Xiao Cheng's voice contained boundless fear mixed within. Chai Jin's figure stiffened, and although he had a belly full of unwillingness, he still nodded obediently. He knew that his master wasn't exaggerating things just to frighten him. Duan Ling Tian was indeed that terrifying. As expected of master, Luo Rong looked at the faraway Duan Ling Tian with a gaze of burning fervor. He originally intended that when Duan Ling Tian wasn't a match for the Black Fiend sect Sun Rue, then even if he had to risk losing face, he would still save Duan Ling Tian. Yet he never imagined that Duan Ling Tian would actually kill Sun Rue so easily. Of course, he didn't think that Sun Rue was killed by Duan Ling Tian because he lost his mind. Duan Ling Tian's carefree expression from the beginning until the end allowed him to discern a trace of an inkling. This master had abilities that were beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Duan Ling Tian, you've really given me a pleasant surprise. Qi Ming glanced at Duan Ling Tian with a complicated gaze. After that, he announced the beginning of the genius competition. For a time, it caused the attention of everyone present to move away. The genius competition of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom was the selection process to head all the way to the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. It belonged to the selection at the Imperial Kingdom level. As long as one was able to obtain the first 5 positions in the genius competition, one would be able to advance to the selections at the Empire level. Today, the most outstanding young geniuses of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom has gathered exactly for the sake of those 5 positions. Duan Ling Tian will surely occupy one of the 5 positions. Besides him, there's also Crazy Young Master, Sword Young Master, and Flame Young Master. In other words, there's only one position for us. Many people whispered in discussion. Fortunately, Zither Young Master and Saber Young Master aren't present. Otherwise, we'd probably not even have the chance to compete for the last position. Even if Zither Young Master and Saber Young Master aren't present, do you think you can compete and obtain that position? Don't forget that there's still Chai Jin, Ji Feng, and Sima Yang. Besides those 3 people, there's also the little prince of Prince Sheng's estate, Zhang Heng, and Flute Fairy, Ziyan. They're both void-prying stage martial artists as well. Looks like so long as it's a person that hasn't stepped into the void-prying stage, then the person practically has no need to join the competition. It's indeed so. The group of young geniuses couldn't help but sigh. Never mind, we'll just take it as we're watching a show. His words quickly aroused the same feelings within most of the people present. Jean, you must do your best to obtain the last position. The Black Fiend sect's supreme elder, Qiu Cheng, looked at Chai Jin who was beside him and said with a serious expression, if you're able to obtain this position, then as the one that recommended you, the Black Fiend sect will be able to obtain the rewards from the Imperial family. Don't worry, Master. So long as Sword Young Master and Zither Young Master don't come, then I'm confident. Chai Jin hurriedly nodded with a confident expression. For the sake of efficiency, young geniuses below the void-prying stage will be considered to be automatically eliminated. If someone has objections, that person may challenge a void-prying stage martial artist. So long as the person is able to defeat his opponent, the person can continue in the following selections. Qi Ming's gaze swept past the crowd of young geniuses one by one. No one had objections towards what Qi Ming said. Martial artists below the void-prying stage indeed didn't have the need to participate. Even if they participated, it would be impossible for them to obtain one of the 5 positions. Very good. When he saw no one had objections, Qi Ming nodded and said, young geniuses at the void-prying stage, fall out. Instantly, the few void-prying stage young geniuses, including Duan Ling Tian, walked forward. There were a total of 9 of them. Duan Ling Tian, Luo Zhan, Chen Xiao Shui, Zhang Yan, Chai Jin, Ziyan, Ji Feng, Sima Yang, Zhang Heng. Qi Ming stood before the 9 people and spoke slowly. Now Qi Ming never finished speaking in the end. Because the attention of the people present were now drawn by the whistling of the wind that sounded out high above in the air. The whistling of the wind was extremely ear-piercing, and accompanying it was a swift figure that stepped down from the air. This was a young man, and his entire body emitted a wave of fierce and peerless aura. It's Saber Young Master. In next to no time, there was someone that exclaimed in surprise. It's really Saber Young Master, Long Yun. He actually rushed over now. Subsequently, many people recognized him. Long Yun. Duan Ling Tian's gaze shot at the person that had arrived, and his gaze was fierce. Besides being one of the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Saber Young Master, Long Yun was the foster son of the sect leader of the former demonic Lotus Blade sect. Whereas the demonic Lotus Blade sect was one of the culprits that annihilated the 7-Star Sword sect. Although Long Yun wasn't present when the former 7-Star Sword sect was annihilated, because of the relationship with Long Yun and the sect leader of the former demonic Lotus Blade sect, Duan Ling Tian didn't have the slightest good impression of him. Whoosh! Long Yun stepped on the sky as he descended, and he firmly descended on an empty space at the side. After a few years since they met the last time, Long Yun was much more mature when compared to before, and his sharp eyes contained a slight feeling of experience. In next to no time, when Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force enveloped onto Long Yun, Duan Ling Tian's face instantly went grim, and it was as if Duan Ling Tian had seen something unbelievable. "I'm not late, right?" Long Yun looked at Qi Ming and spoke indifferently. Qi Ming shook his head. "Saber Young Master." Meanwhile, Luo Zhan, Chen Xiaoshui, and Zhang Yan's gazes descended onto Long Yun. But Long Yun seemed to not have the slightest interest towards these 3 people. His sharp gaze descended onto Duan Ling Tian. "Duan Ling Tian, I lost at your hand all those years ago. Today, I'll wash away that shame." Duan Ling Tian looked at Long Yun, and he said indifferently, "Looks like Saber Young Master has acquired a fortuitous encounter during these past few years." Long Yun frowned, and his heart sank. Could it be that this Duan Ling Tian has noticed something? Saber Young Master. Chai Jin's expression was unsightly to the extreme when he saw Long Yun. He originally thought that he would be able to obtain the last position today, but the arrival of Saber Young Master caused him to feel a wave of powerlessness. Chai Jin took a deep breath, and his eyes emitted a confident luster. Saber Young Master is only a person ranked at the end of the 5 great young masters. He might not be a match for me. Saber Young Master has come as well. Looks like there's no suspense towards the 5 positions to head towards the Darkstone Empire. Many people sighed with emotion. Yeah, these 5 positions will surely be obtained by Duan Ling Tian and these 4 of the 5 great young masters. Many people agreed to this. But in next to no time, the people present couldn't help but raise their heads. Whoosh! High above in the air, another ear-piercing howl of the wind swept out. This was a red-colored figure. The person that had arrived was fully covered in red clothes, and he stepped on the air as he descended. The person was a handsome young man with starry eyes and sword-shaped brows, and as he stood there, he was like a sharp sword with oppressive sword energy. "Looks like I'm not late." The red-clothed young man that was around the age of 27 muttered to himself. "Who's he? I don't know. I've never seen him before." The people present were dumbstruck when they saw the young man that suddenly descended. There was such a figure in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? A void-prying stage martial artist at such an age? In terms of natural talent, his was probably only inferior to Duan Ling Tian in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Sword. Chen Xiaoshui looked at the red-clothed young man with eyes that emitted crazy battle intent. He was able to discern that the red-clothed young man was a sword cultivator as well. Moreover, the attainments of the young man in sword force was great. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the young man to reveal such shocking sword energy. Whereas expressions of the experts of the older generation that were present became serious. They discerned that the red-clothed young man wasn't simple. In terms of strength, this red-clothed young man is probably no inferior to the 5 great young masters. Many people thought to themselves, "Another young expert has arrived." Chai Jin's face sank. Whereas the expressions of Zhang Hong and the others weren't slightly as well. After all, Duan Ling Tian and the 4 people of the 5 great young masters were already existences that were difficult to surpass to them. Now, another young expert with shocking strength had arrived. Moreover, in terms of natural talent and comprehension, he seemed to not be inferior to the 5 great young masters. "It's you." Right at this moment, Saber Young Master looked at the red-clothed young man, and he frowned. "Martial Uncle's sword asked you to come here?" The people present burst into an uproar when Long Yun said this. Saber young master knows him? Martial uncle sword? Could it be that it's a member of the Azure Forest Trisect? No, I've never heard of a figure in the Azure Forest Trisect who uses the name sword. Who exactly is he? Most of the people present were unable to wrap their heads around it. The red-clothed young man looked at Long Yun and said indifferently, "Didn't Martial Uncle Saber ask you to come as well? Junior brother Long." The way the red-clothed young man addressed Sword Young Master caused the people present to be astounded. He's the senior brother of Saber Young Master? His age is obviously younger than Saber Young Master by a few years. Why is he? Many people were astonished. In next to no time, everyone noticed that the gaze of the red-clothed young man descended onto Duan Ling Tian. The originally emotionless face of the red-clothed young man revealed a wisp of a rare smile as he looked at Duan Ling Tian, and it seemed as if he'd seen a friend. Duan Ling Tian, long time no see. The red-clothed young man's eyes were filled with reminiscence. Yeah, long time no see. Duan Ling Tian recovered from his shock, and although his expression was calm, his eyes contained traces of excitement mixed within. Su Li, I truly never imagined that the place we meet again would be here. After a long time, Duan Ling Tian sighed faintly. Su Li. The red-clothed young man that had appeared now was none other than the friend Duan Ling Tian was acquainted with in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Duan Ling Tian still remembered that when he saw Su Li for the first time, it was at the Iron Blood Army's Genius Camp's campsite. At that time, Su Li could be said to be the strongest young genius after him. Later on, Su Li had entered the Paladin Academy that was at the imperial city of the Crimson Sky Kingdom with him, and they'd formed a deep friendship. Further on after that, Su Li was forced to leave by the Grand Elder of the Su clan, and from then on, he was never heard of again. Duan Ling Tian had never imagined that when he saw Su Li again, it would actually be in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's Imperial Palace. Moreover, Su Li actually possessed a shocking cultivation now. This was something Duan Ling Tian had never expected. Duan Ling Tian could guess that Su Li had surely encountered a great fortuitous encounter during these past few years. Otherwise, it would be impossible for such a great change to occur on Su Li. Su Li, when they saw Duan Ling Tian, was extremely familiar with this red-clothed young man, and both of them seemed to have a good relationship. The people present were astonished. At the same time, he found out the name of the red-clothed young man. It turned out that this young expert was called Su Li. Su Li? Have all of you heard of this figure? No, I've never heard of him before today. When did such a figure appear in our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? Not only does Saber Young Master know him, even Duan Ling Tian knows him. Duan Ling Tian seems to be extremely familiar with him. The surrounding crowd of spectators whispered in discussions. Whoosh. Subsequently, the people present saw to their astonishment that with a raise of his hand, a gold bill with a denomination of 10,000 had appeared in Su Li's hand. Along with the raising of Su Li's hand, the gold bill flashed out to descend towards Duan Ling Tian. What is this Su Li doing? All the people present were stunned. Why is Su Li giving Duan Ling Tian money? Huh? Duan Ling Tian laughed as he received the gold bill, then put it away before sighing with emotion. Su Li, so many years have passed, yet I never imagined that you'd still remember. At that time, before Su Li left under the pressure from the Grand Elder of the Su clan, he'd once borrowed 1 million silver from Duan Ling Tian. 1 million silver was equivalent to 10,000 gold. Now, Su Li was precisely returning what he owed from that day. I naturally remember, Su Li said with a smile. There seemed to be slight excitement deep within his eyes as he said, Duan Ling Tian, have you been well during all these years? Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded. What about you? I'm extremely well. Su Li nodded as well before sighing. I guessed that I might be able to encounter you in the genius competition at the Imperial Palace of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom today? As expected. Duan Ling Tian smiled. Your appearance has indeed slightly exceeded my expectations. Duan Ling Tian, this is? Qi Ming looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked in wonder. For a time, numerous gazes descended onto Duan Ling Tian. Even if it was the Saber Young Master, Long Yun, he frowned as he looked at Duan Ling Tian now. How does this Duan Ling Tian know this fellow Su Li? In the eyes of Long Yun, Su Li had always been extremely arrogant. Even if it was when facing him, Su Li had always regarded him as beneath his notice. But before Duan Ling Tian, this cold expression Su Li seemed as if he was a different person. Vice Dean Qi, this is my friend, and he's from the same kingdom as me, said Duan Ling Tian to Qi Ming. So that's how it is. Qi Ming came to a sudden understanding, and a bright light flashed within his eyes as he said, I never imagined that besides the 5 great young masters, there was still such a genius figure in the territory of our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. You're too kind. Su Li nodded to Qi Ming, and his face returned to his cold appearance from before. This Su Li is actually a genius from the same kingdom as Duan Ling Tian? Looks like many talented people are concealed within the territory of our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Yeah, this person's natural talent feels to be not inferior to the 5 great young masters. The surrounding crowd of spectators sighed with emotion. Of course, the expressions of many people were extremely unsightly. These people were precisely Chai Jin and the others who were intending to compete for the final position. However, the appearance of Long Yun and Su Li caused them to feel a wave of powerlessness in their hearts. Damn it, Zhang Heng's expression was extremely gloomy. He's actually a friend of Duan Ling Tian's. Isn't he intentionally making trouble by coming at this time? Also that saber young master. He didn't come earlier or later, but just had to appear at this moment. Originally, Zhang Heng had hope in his heart towards himself being able to obtain a position. But after Su Li and Long Yun appeared, he knew that he was bound to not have any fate with that 5th position. I never imagined that saber young master would hurry over in time. I presume the genius competition today ought to be slightly worth seeing. That's Su Li as well. Amongst the group of void-prying stage martial artists, his age is only older than Duan Ling Tian and is younger than the rest. Most importantly, he's the senior brother of Saber Young Master. I'm able to discern that Saber Young Master seems to be slightly afraid of this Su Li, and he's obviously afraid of Su Li's strength. This Su Li isn't simple. I originally thought that Duan Ling Tian, Crazy Young Master, Sword Young Master, and Flame Young Master would firmly occupy 4 positions. Now that there's an extra 2 variables, Saber Young Master and Su Li, there will probably be some change in these positions. Only like this would it be spectacular. Those young geniuses of the various powers that were below the void-prying stage desired to see an intense battle. To them, no matter if Saber Young Master and Su Li appeared or not, they weren't fated to obtain any of those 5 positions. Now, the appearance of Saber Young Master and Su Li fitted exactly with their wishes, and it caused them to be even more delighted. Because in this way, the genius competition today would surely be even more spectacular. This was something they were happy to see. Revered Elder Qi. Suddenly, Prince Shun took a step forward and looked at Qi Ming as he said in a low voice, This Saber Young Master and Su Li haven't passed the threshold that is the Dragon and Phoenix Academy. I'm afraid it's improper for them to directly participate in the genius competition now, right? Prince Shung's words caused Chai Jin and the others to heave a sigh of relief. Whereas those young geniuses that wanted to watch the show frowned and were slightly worried. They were really worried that the imperial family would drive Su Li and Saber Young Master out and disallow them from participating in the genius competition. In that way, they were undoubtedly going to be disappointed. For a time, the gazes of everyone shot at Qi Ming. Chen Xiai, what do you think? Qi Ming looked at the old man by his side and asked. This old man had come here with Qi Ming and had always been silently standing by Qi Ming's side with his eyes closed, and he didn't speak a word. Now, when Qi Ming spoke, it caused the old man to slowly open his eyes. The old man glanced at Prince Shung indifferently before saying, The Dragon and Phoenix Academy is actually only a format. The genius competition this time intends to unearth the most outstanding young geniuses in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom to fight on the road towards the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. This is also the original intention of the genius competition. So long as the 2 of them have the ability to seize those 5 positions, then I presume even His Majesty the Emperor wouldn't say anything about it. The old man's words were spoken reasonably and justifiably, and I caused most of the people present to gasp in admiration. Prince Shung frowned. Revered Elder Qi, shouldn't we ask Imperial Brother's opinion on this matter? There's no need. At almost the instant that Prince Sheng finished speaking, a sonorous voice suddenly sounded out from the distance. Everyone present saw that high above in the distant sky, a middle-aged man in a dragon robe was controlling the air to move over here. Behind the middle-aged man in a dragon robe was an old man that followed him like a shadow, and when the old man stood there, he gave out an unfathomable aura. 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage. 6th level of the Void Initiation Stage. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised. His spiritual force had discovered the cultivation of the two people at the first possible moment. The middle-aged man in the lead who wore a dragon robe was a martial artist at the 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage. The old man behind him was instead in existence at the 6th level of the Void Initiation Stage. Presumably, he was one of the 5 great revered elders of the imperial family. As for the middle-aged man wearing a dragon robe, "Greeting your majesty." The people present bowed to the middle-aged in a dragon robe, and many people even groveled to the point their heads were about to touch the floor. Only Duan Ling Tian, Su Li, and Luo Rong stood ramrod straight, and they stood out in the crowd. The Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Duan Ling Tian sized up the middle-aged man in a dragon robe before him, and a flowing light flickered within his eyes. He was slightly curious towards the Emperor of the dignified Imperial Kingdom. In terms of strength, the Emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom is much inferior to this Emperor. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. The Crimson Sky Kingdom's Emperor was only an ordinary void-prying stage martial artist, whereas the Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom was instead a formidable existence at the 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage. The difference in strength between the two was like the difference between the heaven and the earth. Audacious. It was at this moment that a voice that was like a thunderclap sounded out by Duan Ling Tian's ear. It was that Prince Sheng who glared angrily at Duan Ling Tian and Su Li as he said coldly, "Duan Ling Tian, Su Li, why do you not bow in greeting when you see the Emperor? Could it be that both of you think the Emperor doesn't have the qualifications to make the two of you bow in greeting?" Needless to say, Prince Sheng bringing such an accusation onto Duan Ling Tian and Su Li was indeed ruthless. Duan Ling Tian frowned, then said indifferently, "Prince Sheng, His Majesty hasn't said anything, yet you're crying and yelling here. Aren't you slightly disrespecting His Majesty?" "You!" Prince Sheng's face sank as he shouted angrily. "Duan Ling Tian, don't change the subject." "I'm changing the subject?" Duan Ling Tian started laughing and was about to continue refuting him. Right at this moment, the nearby Luo Rong spoke out. "Prince Sheng, I think Brother Ling Tian is right. His Majesty the Emperor hasn't said anything. Why are you getting anxious for? Is it because you want to seek personal vengeance in the name of the Emperor?" Because Duan Ling Tian had instructed him beforehand, Luo Rong didn't call Duan Ling Tian as master before outsiders. Luo Rong speaking to protect Duan Ling Tian was beyond Prince Sheng's expectations. He was afraid and reverent towards Luo Rong. Now he didn't dare continue. "Guild Master Luo." The middle-aged man in a dragon robe, the Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, looked at Luo Rong and lightly smiled. "Long time no see. Your body is still strong as always. Your Majesty, you're too kind." Luo Rong nodded casually. Even if he was facing the Emperor, Luo Rong still remained unmoved. Whereas the Emperor wasn't dissatisfied in the slightest. Even if it was him, he had to be slightly afraid of the old man's status. Subsequently, the Emperor's gaze shot at Duan Ling Tian, and he nodded with a smile to Duan Ling Tian. "Duan Ling Tian, I started paying attention to you when you defeated Saber Young Master in the martial competition of the 5 great sects all those years ago and won first place, to become well known throughout the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom." Duan Ling Tian nodded. His face was still calm like an old well that had no ripples. It was as if the person standing in the air before him wasn't the Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, but was instead an ordinary person. Not only did the Emperor not become infuriated when he saw Duan Ling Tian having such a reaction, he instead nodded with satisfaction. Neither arrogant nor humble, he's indeed extraordinary. In next to no time, the Emperor's gaze shot onto Su Li, and he said with a light smile, "Although I've never heard of you in the past, since you're Duan Ling Tian's friend and the senior brother of Saber Young Master, I presume you aren't a simple figure. The arrival of you and Sword Young Master today has allowed the genius competition to become much more interesting. Even I was drawn over by the both of you. Originally, as far as the Emperor was concerned, Duan Ling Tian, Crazy Young Master, Sword Young Master, and Flame Young Master would surely occupy one of the positions each. The remaining position would instead be born from the other people. In other words, Duan Ling Tian and the others were existences that were almost unshakable. So he lacked interest towards the genius competition. But now, because of the appearance of Su Li and Saber Young Master, it was as if he'd seen the spectacular scenes that were about to occur. For of the 5 young masters, coupled with Duan Ling Tian and Su Li, 6 people competing for 5 positions. Amongst the 6 people, every one of them were geniuses in the martial Tao that stood at the peak of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. The competition between the 6 of them would surely be extremely spectacular. Even he felt interested. As soon as the Emperor finished speaking, "Looks like His Majesty the Emperor wants to allow Saber Young Master and Su Li participate in the genius competition as well. His Majesty the Emperor is truly wise and knows how to decide on the most outstanding 5. Looks like it's very likely that a young expert that is able to advance in the Darkstone Empire will appear in our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom this time." The people present intentionally suppressed their voices as they whispered in discussion. "Your Majesty." Right at this moment, the Supreme Elder of the Black Fiend sect, Qiu Cheng, bowed respectfully to the Emperor. The Emperor glanced indifferently at Qiu Cheng. "Who are you?" Qiu Cheng said hurriedly. "Your Majesty, I'm the Supreme Elder of the Black Fiend sect, Qiu Cheng. Do you need something?" The Emperor asked with a tone that contained slight impatience mixed within. As the Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the Emperor who controlled the strongest power, the Imperial family. Not to mention a second-rate sect like the Black Fiend sect, even if it's the 3 great sects that have combined together the present Azure Forest trisect. He didn't take them seriously. The strength of the Imperial family stood proudly and matchlessly in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Otherwise, it would be insufficient to rule the entire Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. In this world where the strong were respected, even if it was the Imperial Kingdom, if they wanted to rule a kingdom, Imperial Kingdom, or even empire or dynasty, they had to possess sufficient strength. Otherwise, they would have been overthrown long ago. "Your Majesty, there are still matters to be attended to in the Black Fiend sect. I want to bring my disciple along and leave first," said Qiu Cheng. Obviously, now that he'd seen the appearance of Saber Young Master and Su Li, Qiu Cheng didn't place his hopes on Chai Jin any longer. He was extremely clear of Chai Jin's strength. It was impossible for Chai Jin to compare with Duan Ling Tian, Su Li, and the 4 people from the 5 great young masters. "Go ahead," the Emperor nodded. To him, the Black Fiend sect's members were not essential. "Yes." Qiu Cheng nodded respectfully, then instructed Chai Jin to carry Sun Rue's body before hastily leaving the Imperial Palace. His disappearing figure seemed to be solitary and in a sorry state. The Black Fiend sect's Chai Jin officially withdrew from the genius competition. As soon as Chai Jin left, the remaining void-prying stage students were slightly uneasy. "I'll withdraw." Ji Feng knew his own limitations and withdrew to the side. "I'll withdraw as well." Sima Yang withdrew right after Ji Feng. Although the 2 of them had broken through to the first level of the void-prying stage now, they didn't completely comprehend force yet. So they knew their limitations and withdrew. As far as they were concerned, if they were to stay behind, it would purely be looking for a beating. "I'll withdraw." The little prince of Prince Sheng's estate, Zhang Heng, had a gloomy expression as he spoke. For a time, besides Duan Ling Tian and the other 5, only Flute Fairy remained. Flute Fairy didn't say anything, but she instead withdrew to a side. She used her actions to explain everything. She had withdrawn as well. "Big brother, will you return?" Flute Fairy saw that even Saber Young Master had appeared, and she looked high above in the sky with slight anticipation. But even until Qi Ming announced that the genius competition begun, she didn't see the figure of Zither Young Master. The genius competition today will decide the strongest 5 people from the 6 of you, and those 5 people will obtain the positions to head to the Darkstone Empire. Qi Ming looked at Duan Ling Tian and the others as he spoke slowly. This is a chance for all of you, a chance to make a name for yourselves in the Darkstone Empire. I hope that all of you won't miss this chance. Subsequently, Qi Ming announced the rules. Every one of the 6 of you will face 5 battles. Now, all of you can obtain your numbers via drawing lots. As Qi Ming spoke, a paper box that had a small gap had appeared in his hand. Whereas the small gap on the paper box was only able to allow the arm of an adult to stretch through. It was precisely a lot box. There's the number 1 to 6 within it. The person that draws number 1 can choose anyone behind his number to become his first target and undergo the first battle in the genius competition. Besides being unable to choose the person who holds lot number 1 and the person challenged by the possessor of lot number 1, the person that draws number 2 can choose any one of the remaining 3 people. Besides being unable to choose the person who holds lot number 2 and the person challenged by the possessor of lot number 2, the person that draws number 3 can choose any one of the remaining 3 people. The following sequence can be deduced from this. The specific rules is that one isn't allowed to challenge the 2 people that have just undergone a battle and allow the 2 people to have some room to rest. Qi Ming slowly finished speaking. These rules weren't complicated, and Duan Ling Tian's group of 6 quickly understood it clearly in their hearts. Subsequently, it was the drawing of lots. Duan Ling Tian drew number 3. Chen Xiao Shui drew number 1. Zhang Yin drew number 2. Long Yun drew number 4. Luo Zhan drew number 5. Su Li drew number 6. The first battle would be initiated by the possessor of the number 1 lot, Sword Young Master, Chen Xiao Shui. Under numerous focused gazes, Chen Xiao Shui's gaze flashed past Duan Ling Tian and the others. His gaze didn't stop on Duan Ling Tian and Luo Zhan, and in the end, Chen Xiao Shui chose a target. I challenged the possessor of lot number 2, Flame Young Master. Chen Xiao Shui's gaze descended onto Zhang Yan, and his body was filled with killing intent. Flame Young Master, the person that was ranked number 2 amongst the 5 great young masters, and he was also the other person that was ranked above Chen Xiao Shui besides Luo Zhan amongst the 4 of the 5 great young masters that were present. Sword Young Master, wanting to step on me and climb up isn't an easy thing. Zhang Yin grunted coldly. Whether it's an easy thing or not is something we'll only know after I try. Chen Xiao Shui glanced indifferently at Zhang Yan, and his tone was calm as he spoke. Since you want to invite humiliation, then I'll fulfill your wish. Zhang Yin took a step forward as the origin energy on his body raged, and he stood out to confront Chen Xiao Shui. For a time, the gazes of everyone present descended onto the 2 of them. Sword Young Master versus Flame Young Master. Most of the people held their breaths. Whoosh. Along with his origin energy skyrocketed, 6,000 lifelike ancient mammoth silhouettes had condensed into form in the sky above Zhang Yan. 4th level of the void prying stage? Duan Ling Tian frowned. He still remembered that he'd once used his spiritual force to detect Zhang Yan's cultivation half a month ago. At that time, Zhang Yan was only at the 3rd level of the void prying stage. Only half a month has passed, and Zhang Yan has broken through? Duan Ling Tian was able to notice that even if it was the emperor, the imperial father of Zhang Yan, he had a surprised expression now. Obviously, he'd just found out now that his son had broken through to the 4th level of the void prying stage. 4th level of the void prying stage. Luo Zhan's face went slightly serious as his heart shook. Sword Young Master is in danger. Sword Young Master, I'll let you know that even if you've comprehended half-step advanced sword force, whereas I haven't comprehended half-step advanced water force, I'm still able to crush a 3rd level void prying stage martial artist like you with my cultivation that's at the 4th level of the void prying stage. Zhang Yan's words were extremely arrogant. Obviously, he knew Chen Xiao Shui through and through. 3rd level of the void prying stage? Unexpectedly, Chen Xiao Shui laughed instead when he heard Zhang Yan. Whoosh. Along with Chen Xiao Shui's laugh, the origin energy on his body raged. In the sky, 6,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared similarly. Sword Young Master has broken through to the 4th level of the void prying stage as well. Instantly, the surrounding crowd of spectators burst into an uproar. This fellow, Duan Ling Tian and Luo Zhan were slightly dazed when they saw this scene. They never imagined that Sword Young Master had actually broken through. He was still at the third level of the Void Prying stage yesterday. Could it be that he broke through overnight? Duan Ling Tian was secretly shocked. He still remembered that his spiritual force had imperceptibly flashed past Chen Xiao Shui yesterday, and he'd confirmed that Chen Xiao Shui was still a third-level Void Prying stage martial artist. Only a night had passed, and Chen Xiao Shui had already broken through to the fourth level of the Void Prying stage, and it was shocking. You've actually broken through. Zhang Yin had a surprised expression. Sword Young Master's breakthrough also meant that he was unable to use origin energy to suppress Sword Young Master anymore. Not only that, Sword Young Master had comprehended half-step advanced sword force since long ago. In terms of the comprehension of force, he was inferior to Sword Young Master. Whoosh. Sword Young Master didn't care about how unsightly Zhang Yan's expression was, and in the end, he took the initiative to attack first and seize the upper hand. His figure flashed like the wind and arrived before Zhang Yan in the blink of an eye. Swish. His sword stabbed out as if it was assisted by the gods, and it bore down menacingly towards Zhang Yan. Humph. Zhang Yan grunted angrily, and he already had a decision in his heart. He would use a grade 5 spirit weapon and defeat Sword Young Master. As far as he was concerned, the formidable strength bestowed upon him by the grade 5 spirit weapon was sufficient to crush the total strength of Sword Young Master's spirit, sword, and half-step advanced sword force, along with a spirit weapon glove that appeared out of thin air on Zhang Yan's right hand and origin energy raging atop it. Another 2,200 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared at the side of the existing 6,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes in the sky. Swish. Instantly, Zhang Yin pointed out, and his origin energy condensed into a point force that shot out. A piercing howl deafened the ear. A strand of strange aura faintly appeared on the surroundings of the origin energy point force. That was the aura of elementary force. Meanwhile, another 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared out of thin air above Zhang Yin. This finger contained the strength of 8,400 ancient mammoths. Bang! Zhang Yan's point force instantly obliterated the origin energy on the spirit sword in Chen Xiaoshui's hand, and a terrifying energy gushed into the spirit sword. Instantly, the hand Chen Xiaoshui used to grasp the sword trembled as his palms split open and fresh blood dripped down. Even if he'd comprehended half-step advanced sword force, the spirit sword in his hand was only a grade 6 spirit sword after all, and it was inferior by an amplification of an entire 10% when compared with the grade 5 spirit weapon on Zhang Yan's hand. When a 4th-level Void Prying stage martial artist exploded out with his full strength, it was comparable to the strength of 6,000 ancient mammoths, and 10% of strength was equivalent to the strength of 600 ancient mammoths. Flame Young Master relied on his grade 5 spirit weapon, elementary force, and his strength surpassed the entire strength of Sword Young Master. Of course, all of this was because Zhang Yin had an advantage in terms of spirit weapon, otherwise, it wouldn't be Sword Young Master who lost. Sword Young Master, it was a good fight. Zhang Yin smiled indifferently. As far as he was concerned, unless Chen Xiaoshui had a grade 5 spirit weapon as well, otherwise, it was impossible for Chen Xiaoshui to be a match for him. Chen Xiaoshui had a gloomy expression, and although he was unwilling, he was prepared to withdraw. Right when Duan Ling Tian intended to lend his sword to Chen Xiaoshui. Sword Young Master. With a raise of his hand, a spirit sword flew out from Luo Rong's hand and flashed straight towards Chen Xiaoshui. Chen Xiaoshui stretched his hand out to accept it. Then he looked at Luo Rong with a bewildered expression. Guild Manager Luo, this is a grade 5 spirit sword. It's my second creation since becoming a grade 5 weapons craftsman. It's yours. Luo Rong's tone was casual, and it was as if he'd given out an unimportant thing. Grade 5 weapons craftsman. As soon as Luo Rong said this, it caused an uproar as expected. Besides Duan Ling Tian and Luo Zhan who knew of it since long ago, besides Su Li who was comparatively composed, the other people all had dumbstruck expressions. Guild Master Luo, You're a grade 5 weapons craftsman now." The emperor slightly lost his composure as he asked. Luo Rong nodded indifferently. "I broke through not long ago." "Congratulations, Guild Master Luo." The emperor hurriedly congratulated when he heard Luo Rong confirm it. "Congratulations, Guild Master Luo." The other people followed to congratulate. A grade 5 weapons craftsman that belonged to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom had finally been born. Some people emitted burning gazes as they looked at Luo Rong, and it seemed as if they wished for nothing more than to swallow Luo Rong. They knew clearly what a grade 5 weapons craftsman meant. So long as a grade 5 weapons craftsman was willing, he was able to refine numerous grade 5 spirit weapons. "Thank you, Guild Master Luo." Chun Xiao Shuai's gaze lit up when he realized that it was a grade 5 spirit sword that Luo Rong gave him, and his feelings surged. Whereas Zhang Yan's face went gloomy. Whoosh! Zhang Yan's figure flashed out, seeming to transform into a bolt of lightning that shot towards Chun Xiao Shuai. Swish! Another origin energy point force whistled out, and it caused a piercing howl to sound out in the air. Zhang Yan had exerted all his strength in this point. Obviously, Zhang Yan wanted to catch Chun Xiao Shuai off guard and heavily injure him before he could react. Only in this way would he have a chance to seize victory. Otherwise, Sword Young Master who possessed a grade 5 spirit sword to rely on was absolutely not someone he was able to go against. A wisp of worry flashed past Duan Ling Tian's eyes when he saw this scene. Humph! Practically at the instant that Zhang Yan attacked, Chun Xiao Shuai snorted lightly before his figure moved instantly. Whoosh! His figure shot to the side. Zhang Yan's origin energy point force flashed past Chun Xiao Shuai's sleeve and left behind a hole on it. The origin energy point force didn't lose momentum in the slightest to fiercely smash onto the ground, and it caused the limestone bricks on the ground to shatter, shooting chips of stone whirling out. Zhang Yan's reaction was extremely swift, and at almost the same instant that Chun Xiao Shuai dodged, he pointed out once more. Swish! The origin energy point force flashed out once more, and he seemed as if he wouldn't stop until he crushed Chun Xiao Shuai. "Zhang Yan, I'll let you try the might of a grade 5 spirit weapon as well." Chun Xiao Shuai shouted out coldly, and the grade 5 spirit sword in his hand instantly swung out. Instantly, another 2,900 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared out of thin air at the side of the existing 6,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes above him. The strength of amplification even surpassed the strength of the amplification of Zhang Yan's grade 5 spirit weapon, coupled with the fact that he'd comprehended half-step advanced sword force. So not to mention his strength and the amplification of his spirit weapon. Just in terms of force, he already surpassed Zhang Yan by the strength of 300 ancient mammoths. Presently, coupled with the difference in amplification of their spirit weapons that was at the strength of 100 ancient mammoths. The strength on the sword in Chun Xiao Shuai's hand surpassed the strength of Chun Xiao Shuai's point by an entire 400 ancient mammoths worth of strength. A difference of the strength of 400 ancient mammoths. This difference was like a chasm. The combat experience of the two were on par, and the difference in their strength caused the battle to not have the slightest suspense. Sword Young Master relied on a strength that surpassed Flame Young Master to defeat Flame Young Master, turning defeat into victory. The might of the grade 5 spirit sword was completely visible. "I've lost." Zhang Yan was slightly out of sorts. The attention of the other people were instead not on the outcome of this battle. Besides Duan Ling Tian, Luo Rong, and Luo Zhan, the gaze of everyone else, including the emperor, had shot onto the grade 5 spirit sword in Chun Xiao Shuai's hand in unison. Sword Young Master's grade 5 spirit sword seems to be able to amplify strength by 49%. Someone suddenly shouted out in astonishment. This voice caused everyone who was absent-minded to return to their senses. A grade 5 spirit sword that provided an amplification of 49%, it's undoubtedly top-grade spirit weapon amongst grade 5 spirit weapons. This grade 5 spirit sword was refined by Guild Master Luo. Even if it's the Darkstone Empire, or even the grade 5 weapons craftsmen of the Darkhan dynasty, they might not be able to refine a grade 5 spirit weapon with such formidable amplification. The attainments of Guild Master Luo in the Tao of weapons refinement is truly terrifying. He has only just become a grade 5 weapons craftsman, and he's already able to refine such an outstanding grade 5 spirit sword. Numerous burning gazes descended onto Luo Rong as expected. This was a grade 5 weapons craftsman that was able to refine a grade 5 spirit weapon that provided a 49% amplification. Guild Master Luo. Even if it was the Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he'd slightly lost his composure now. As he felt the numerous respectful gazes that came from the surroundings, Luo Rong unintentionally glanced at Duan Ling Tian, and his gaze was complicated. Who would be able to imagine the reason he was able to become a grade 5 weapons craftsman in such a short amount of time, and even possess great certainty of refining a grade 5 spirit weapon that provided an amplification of 49% was all because of this young man. Before this young man, he felt guilty when receiving the respectful gazes from the surrounding people. Guild Master Luo, our He clan wants to ask you to refine a grade 5 spirit weapon for us. In the future, so long as Guild Master Luo requires any help, our He clan will surely not hesitate to lay down our lives if need be. Our Tong clan as well. Our Wu clan as well. For a time, the drill ground was in a complete uproar. For the sake of making Luo Rong help them refine a grade 5 spirit weapon, the various powers were willing to pay extremely great prices. But Luo Rong completely paid no attention to all this. As the guild master of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's Weapons Craftsman Guild, would he lack errand boys? Everyone. Suddenly, Luo Rong said, so long as all of you are able to find any one of these 2 medicinal materials, I'm willing to refine a grade 5 spirit weapon as repayment. Luo Rong rose his hand as he spoke, and in the sky, Luo Rong's origin energy formed into numerous milky white strands that weaved into 2 pictures in the end. This first picture was an oval-shaped leaf. The surroundings of the leaf were lines that were extremely distinct from each other, and they were extremely alike to the wings of the divine beast of legend, the phoenix. This is a phoenix wing herb, and it's an extremely rare medicinal material. Luo Rong introduced. Subsequently, Luo Rong introduced the second type of medicinal material. This is ageless root. It seems alike to the sharp claws of the legendary phoenix. The other picture was like a tree root that was alike to a phoenix claw. Guild Master Luo, you're really willing to refine a grade 5 spirit weapon for us, as long as we find any one of these 2 medicinal materials? A patriarch of a reputed clan in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom asked with slight excitement. Of course, my promise is like gold. Luo Rong nodded. Instantly, the gazes of many people present lit up. Guildmaster Luo, I wonder what use these 2 medicinal materials you're looking for possess. The Emperor asked curiously. The others looked at Luo Rong as well. These 2 medicinal materials were something that even the dignified Guild Master of the Weapons Craftsman Guild wasn't able to find, and they were obviously unordinary items. I've only been entrusted by someone to do this, Luo Rong said indifferently. Entrusted by someone? Many people were dumbstruck when they heard Luo Rong. Who had such great face to make the dignified Guild Master of the Weapons Craftsman Guild not spare to use grade 5 spirit weapons as the price to exchange for those 2 medicinal materials? Presently, even Luo Zhan had a bewildered expression as he didn't know of this matter. At the moment, amongst the people present, only Duan Ling Tian maintained his composure and had a carefree expression. Because it was precisely him who'd asked Luo Rong to look for the phoenix wing herb and ageless root. The phoenix wing herb and ageless root were the 2 secondary medicinal catalysts that were required to refine the rebirth pill. But Luo Rong saying this out at this place was something that had exceeded his expectations. With a quick thought, he guessed Luo Rong's intentions. Today, Luo Rong had made such a promise before the members of the various great powers of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom here, and it probably wouldn't be long before this matter would spread throughout the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. At that time, in the entire Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, there would be a group of people that would search madly for these 2 medicinal materials for the sake of obtaining a grade 5 spirit weapon. As expected, the old have more wisdom than the young. Duan Ling Tian was utterly convinced of this. Next, because the possessor of lot number 2 has been challenged, it's the turn of the possessor of lot number 3. Qi Ming's voice suddenly sounded out. The possessor of lot number 2 was precisely Zhang Yan, and he'd just battled Chen Xiao Shuai. It was exactly Duan Ling Tian who was the possessor of lot number 3. Duan Ling Tian stood out and became the center of attention. Who will Duan Ling Tian challenge? All the people present were slightly curious. Duan Ling Tian stood there and became the center of attention of the entire audience. Everyone was curious about who would Duan Ling Tian choose as his opponent. Finally, Duan Ling Tian's gaze flashed past Su Li, Long Yun, and Luo Zhan. Luo Zhan. In the end, his gaze fixed onto Luo Zhan. Duan Ling Tian is challenging Luo Zhan. Many people were dumbstruck. They never imagined that Duan Ling Tian would challenge Luo Zhan, especially the group of young geniuses from the Dragon and Phoenix Academy, as they knew of the relationship between Duan Ling Tian and Luo Zhan. Luo Zhan and Duan Ling Tian were friends. Unlike the surprise of the others, Luo Zhan wasn't surprised in the slightest. Along with the numerous gazes moving from Luo Zhan onto Duan Ling Tian. I admit defeat. Luo Zhan spoke indifferently with a calm expression on his face. It was as if admitting defeat was nothing to him. In reality, during the genius competition this time, so long as any one of them were able to win a battle, they would be able to obtain the position to head towards the Darkstone Empire. After all, there were only 6 people competing for 5 positions. When they saw Luo Zhan admit defeat, it caused most of the people present to be slightly surprised. These people were the people that thought the reason the Black Fiend sect Sun Rue had died at Duan Ling Tian's hand earlier was because Sun Rue had lost his mind, whereas the others that knew of Duan Ling Tian's abilities weren't surprised. As far as they were concerned, even the 6th level void prying stage Sun Rue had died at the hands of Duan Ling Tian, so it was impossible for Crazy Young Master to be a match for Duan Ling Tian. Since it's like this, the possessor of lot number 3, Duan Ling Tian, is considered to have won this round. Qi Ming nodded then said, "Now, the possessor of lot number 4, please enter the battlefield. You may choose anyone." Anyone. Qi Ming's words were extremely clear. The possessor of lot number 4 was able to challenge Duan Ling Tian or Luo Zhan. After all, the two of them didn't fight and had no consumption of strength. The possessor of lot number 4 was precisely Saber Young Master, Long Yun. Long Yun took a step out, and his gaze that was fierce like a saber almost didn't look at anyone as it shot directly at Duan Ling Tian, and he said with a grim voice, "Duan Ling Tian, you ought to return what you owe me from all those years ago." Duan Ling Tian smiled as he shrugged. Then he said indifferently, "If you're confident, then come at me." Intentionally trying to mislead others. Long Yun's gaze went slightly cold as he took a step forward, and his imposing manner shot out like a rainbow. At the instant he stepped out, the origin energy on his body rages and emitted a peerless and fierce aura. At this moment, Long Yun seemed to have transformed into an enormous saber that was matchlessly sharp. Whoosh! Right at this moment, 7,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared out of thin air above Long Yun. 5th level of the void prying stage. This scene caused most of the people present to have shocked expressions. No one had imagined that Saber Young Master would have actually already broken through to the 5th level of the void prying stage now. He was the existence that was ranked at the end amongst the 5 great young masters. The faces of Luo Zhan, Sword Young Master, and Flame Young Master sank. Never had they imagined that the Saber Young Master that they squashed down beneath them had actually surpassed them now. Especially Flame Young Master, Zhang Yan. As the second ranked amongst the 5 great young master. First he was defeated by Sword Young Master who was ranked the 4th, and now he saw that Saber Young Master had revealed a cultivation at the 5th level of the void prying stage. Embarrassment arose within his heart. That Zither Young Master, Zishang, has a mysterious and unfathomable master. His accomplishments now are surely not inferior to mine. Could it be that I'm bound to be the existence at the bottom of the 5 great young masters? Zhang Yin shook his head endlessly as he was unwilling to believe that all this was real. He was the 3rd prince of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, a genius. He was the person with the strongest natural talent in the younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's younger generation. He carried the glory of the imperial family on his back, and he wasn't someone that anyone could step on. Unknowingly, Zhang Yan's fists clenched together tightly, and strands of faint blue-colored strong energy flickered on his body. Suddenly, the blue-colored energy trembled and a fine change occurred on it. It was this fine change that caused Zhang Yan to suddenly awaken, and his eyes lit up with a dazzling bright light. My force has stepped into the stage of half-step advanced force. Zhang Yan's heart shook as he revealed a violently delighted expression. But unfortunately, the attention of most of the people present were on the saber young master, Long Yun. Very few people noticed the 500 ancient mammoth silhouettes that flashed in the sky above Zhang Yan. Half-step advanced force. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised. His acute spiritual force caused us to notice the changes in Zhang Yan at the first possible. This flame young master has some ability. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. As for the fact that Saber Young Master was a 5th-level void prying stage martial artist, he wasn't surprised by it. Early on, when Saber Young Master had just made an appearance, his spiritual force had already detected Saber Young Master's cultivation. When Duan Ling Tian saw a spirit saber suddenly appear in the hands of Saber Young Master, and Saber Young Master's origin energy skyrocket, causing a little over 9,600 ancient mammoth silhouettes to condense into form above him before accumulating strength while waiting to be deployed. At practically the exact same instant, a dim light flashed into appearance in the depths of Duan Ling Tian's eyes. His spiritual force fused into the soul brand that was deep within his soul. 1,000 illusions. Duan Ling Tian executed his soul skill at the first possible moment. Saber Young Master has actually broken through to the 5th level of the void prying stage. Looks like Duan Ling Tian is going to suffer. Yeah, unless Saber Young Master loses his mind like that Black Fiend sect Sun Rui. Otherwise, Duan Ling Tian will lose for sure. It was only luck that Duan Ling Tian won in the battle against Sun Rui. The surrounding crowd of spectators whispered in discussion. Of course, there were also people that knew of Duan Ling Tian's ability and felt this battle was without suspense. It's truly surprising that Saber Young Master has broken through to the 5th level of the void prying stage. However, he can only consider himself to be unfortunate for encountering Duan Ling Tian. Luo Zhan and Chun Xiao Shui looked each other in the eye as they spoke via voice transmission. I truly never imagined that amongst our 5 great young masters, it actually the person that was ranked at the end that broke through to the 5th level of the void prying stage first. Chun Xiao Shui had an extremely complicated gaze. Duan Ling Tian, along with Saber Young Master's explosive shout, his entire body seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind that rushed towards Duan Ling Tian in full fury. Whem! The origin energy on Spirit Saber in his hand revolved out, transforming into a demonic lotus that had strands of fierce and peerless aura on it. That was the aura of force. Right at this moment, another 500 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky above Long Yun. Half-step advanced saber force. At almost an instant, the 500 ancient mammoth silhouettes that had just appeared fused into one with the other 9,000 over ancient mammoth silhouettes, transforming into an ancient horned dragon silhouette. Obviously, this saber strike of Long Yun contained the strength of an ancient horned dragon. Half-step advanced saber force. At the instant that Long Yun attacked, the pupils of the people that saw through the stage of the saber force Long Yun executed couldn't help but constrict. Not only has this Saber Young Master's cultivation surpassed Crazy Young Master, Sword Young Master, and Flame Young Master, even the force he has comprehended isn't inferior to them. I originally thought that Saber Young Master had acquired a fortuitous encounter and might have obtained something like a spirit fruit to possess his shocking cultivation, and his comprehension of force ought to be far inferior to Crazy Young Master and the others. Now it would seem like I've underestimated Saber Young Master. Saber Young Master had once lost at the hands of Duan Ling Tian many years ago. He ought to be able to wash away his shame today. Many people sighed with emotion, but in next to no time, their expressions changed. They became dumbstruck. At almost an instant, the pupils of everyone present had constricted. Heavens! What have I seen? The saber in Long Yun's hand carried along the might to split a mountain as it descended onto Duan Ling Tian. Right at this moment, whoosh, Long Yun suddenly held his sword as he changed direction, and his figure flashed towards another side. Wham! Origin energy abruptly skyrocketed atop the grade 6 spirit saber Long Yun held in his hand, and when looked at from afar, the entire spirit saber seemed to have expanded to transform into an enormous saber. Demonic Lotus Blade Technique. The enormous saber left his hand, transforming into an enormous lotus that flashed out to collide onto the block of stone at the side of the drill ground. Instantly, the block of stone was directly shattered, and only stone fragments that covered the sky remained. The people present were completely dumbstruck when they saw the scene before them, and they were at a complete loss for words. Within their field of vision, Saber Young Master was no different than the Black Fiend sect Sun Rue from before. Both of them had avoided Duan Ling Tian of their own accord and attacked an empty place. Could it be that Saber Young Master has lost his mind as well? Isn't this too much of a coincidence? The surrounding spectators looked at each other and had expressions of astonishment. Everything before their eyes caused them to feel as if they were dreaming. Not to mention that Black Fiend sect Sun Rue had lost his mind. Even Saber Young Master lost his mind now as well? Was there such a coincidental thing in the world? I remember now. Suddenly, a Dragon and Phoenix Academy student exclaimed in shock. After he successfully attracted the gazes of many people, he said with a terrified expression, "According to my knowledge, Flute Fairy had once said that Duan Ling Tian knew demonic techniques 1 year ago. At that time, it was as if Flute Fairy was lost within Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique and was unable to free herself from it. But, at that time, all of us thought that Flute Fairy was working together with Duan Ling Tian to put on an act, and we didn't take it seriously. Now that I think of this, perhaps all of these have connected greatly." As soon as this person finished speaking, it aroused the same feelings in the numerous students from the Dragon and Phoenix Academy. I remember it now as well. Demonic technique. Duan Ling Tian has surely utilized his demonic technique. This demonic technique is too terrifying. Even if it was Sun Rue, an existence at the 6th level of the void prying stage, he was actually unable to escape from being affected by it. Even a 6th level void prying stage martial artist was affected by Duan Ling Tian. Saber Young Master is only at the 5th level of the void prying stage, so he's naturally unable to escape it. Under the focused gazes of everyone present, Duan Ling Tian walked out in large strides and easily stood behind Long Yun. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian casually swung his entire arm. Whoosh! His arm smashed out, and he only used less than half his strength to fiercely blast Flying Sword Young Master, who was completely unguarded. Subsequently, Long Yun fell to the ground in a sorry state, and his face was covered in dust and dirt. Meanwhile, he returned to his senses, and his face had an expression of shock when he saw Duan Ling Tian standing completely unharmed before him. "No, impossible. Duan Ling Tian, you? Weren't you heavily injured by me and lost the strength to continue fighting? You? How can you be fine?" Everything before his eyes caused Long Yun to be in disbelief, and his expression was unsightly to the extreme. Now, he even suspected that he was dreaming. Duan Ling Tian had a calm expression as he looked at Long Yun and said indifferently, "Saber Young Master, we haven't seen each other for many years, yet you've only improved this little?" Duan Ling Tian's words infuriated Long Yun. "Duan Ling Tian, let me see how you withstand a strike of mine again." Because Duan Ling Tian had held back, Long Yun wasn't injured, and he stood up again and seemed to have transformed into a demon beast as he pounced towards Duan Ling Tian once again. Thousand Illusion. Duan Ling Tian had a calm expression as a dim light flickered deep within his eyes. He once again constructed an illusory space and enveloped Long Yun within it. Long Yun was lost within it once again. Bang! Duan Ling Tian smashed out with his arm once more, using a greater force this time to cause Long Yun to temporarily lose the strength to continue fighting. Long Yun lay on the ground and struggled for some time before barely being able to stand up, and when he looked at Duan Ling Tian once more, his gaze contained slight fear within it. "Duan Ling Tian, you? What exactly did you do?" Long Yun's voice contained traces of trembling mixed within. When he recalled the scenes that occurred repeatedly earlier, he had the feeling as if something impossible had happened. If it wasn't for that, how could he be completely controlled by Duan Ling Tian? Earlier, he'd clearly already heavily injured Duan Ling Tian twice in succession and caused Duan Ling Tian to lose the ability to continue fighting. Yet when he returned to his senses, he instead noticed that Duan Ling Tian wasn't harmed in the slightest. This was difficult to accept for him. Long Yun, you should feel lucky that you weren't amongst the Azure Forest Trisect members when they annihilated my 7-star sword sect. Otherwise, you'd have died for sure today. Duan Ling Tian stared at Long Yun as a frightfully cold light flickered within his eyes. This caused Long Yun to feel a chill run down his spine and feel a wave of nervousness. Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique is too terrifying. Yeah, it's simply impossible to guard against. The surrounding crowd of spectators had all revealed expressions of fear. Demonic technique? Interesting. The Emperor revealed a slight smile. If Duan Ling Tian doesn't die, then he'll surely be a great disaster for my Prince Sheng's estate. The depths of Prince Sheng's gaze was filled with extreme killing intent. Zhang Heng, who stood by Prince Sheng's side, gnashed his teeth. Why is Duan Ling Tian so strong? The heavens are unfair. A young man that was even younger than him possessing such ability had caused his heart to be filled with envy. Why is the person that possesses this ability Duan Ling Tian, and not me? He envied. He hated. Duan Ling Tian. Su Li looked silently at Duan Ling Tian, and the corners of his mouth curled into a slight smile. As Duan Ling Tian's friend, he felt happy for Duan Ling Tian when he saw Duan Ling Tian possessing his current accomplishments. Vice Dean Qi. Duan Ling Tian looked at Qi Ming. Duan Ling Tian is victorious in this round. The possessor of lot number 5 enter the battlefield for the next round. Qi Ming announced. The possessor of lot number 5, Luo Zhan, entered into the battlefield. Crazy young master has entered the battlefield. I wonder who he'll choose. The surrounding crowd of spectators looked curiously at Luo Zhan. Luo Zhan's gaze swept past Chen Xiaoshui, Zhang Yan, and Su Li. In the end, his gaze locked onto Su Li. Su Li, Luo Zhan's eyes were filled with battle intent. Su Li was a figure that wasn't well known. Before today, he even didn't know that such a figure existed in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. However, the sword energy that was unintentionally emitted from Su Li's body had instead allowed him to realize that Su Li wasn't simple. At least, Su Li wasn't weaker than Sword Young Master and Flame Young Master. Su Li walked out with large strides, and he stood in confrontation with Luo Zhan before nodding indifferently, and his expression was still cold. This fellow. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled when he saw this scene. Su Li was still fond of acting cool like before. At this moment, he felt as if he'd returned to a few years back, to the days when he was in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Paladin Academy. I truly never imagined that after Su Li left that day, it would actually cause him to obtain this shocking cultivation of his. Duan Ling Tian sighed in his heart. Meanwhile, on the drill grounds, Luo Zhan had already made a move. His strength at the 4th level of the Void Prying stage fully exploded out, and his half-step advanced fire force followed out like a shadow. Besides that, was his grade 5 Spirit Spear. Whoosh! Luo Zhan struck out with his speak like a WYRM leaving its cave, striking to the point that the airflow transformed into ripples that undulated and swept out. This strike flashed straight towards Su Li. In the sky, the energy of heaven and earth roiled. In the end, it condensed into over 9,400 ancient mammoth silhouettes that dashed out behind him. However, Su Li didn't have the slightest reaction when facing Luo Zhan's spear strike that approached menacingly. He stood on the spot and didn't move like a mountain. Has this Su Li become stunned from fear? Right when thoughts like this emerged in the hearts of many people. Luo Zhan's spear strike was about to descend onto Su Li. It was at this moment that Su Li moved. Whoosh! Su Li suddenly raised his hand. Then 2 of his fingers pressed together, forming a finger sword with origin energy that raged on it. Su Li's origin energy was dense and vast. Along with the origin energy on Su Li's finger sword condensing into a 3-foot-long blade, 8,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky above him. Sixth level of the void prying stage. Instantly, besides Duan Ling Tian and Long Yun who had expressions that remained unchanged, the expression of everyone else changed into an expression of shock. Su Li's age looked to be around 27, yet his cultivation was at the sixth level of the void prying stage. This natural talent simply completely obliterated the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Swish! As his hand raised, the 3-foot-long blade on his finger sword that was condensed from origin energy had shot out violently. At the same time, strands of a strange aura that was extremely sharp leaped about on the 3-foot-long blade. At the instant this aura appeared, it caused the airflow in the sky to tremble. In the sky, another 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared at the side of the existing 8,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes. Advanced sword force. This time, even Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be shocked. He's detected Su Li's cultivation with his spiritual force since long ago, but he had no knowledge of the force that Su Li had comprehended before this moment. He never imagined that when he saw Su Li once again after many years, not only was Su Li a 6th-level void prying stage martial artist, he'd even comprehended advanced sword force. Swish! After the sword on Su Li's hand that was condensed from origin energy had the advanced sword force, it contained the strength of an ancient horned dragon, and it completely crushed the strength contained on Luo Zhan's grade 5 spirit spear. Bang! When the sword in Su Li's hand touched the grade 5 spirit spear in Luo Zhan's hand, it easily blasted Luo Zhan back and caused him to be injured. The scene was deathly silent. Luo Zhan looked at the grade 5 spirit spear in his hand with a stiff expression, and his face was covered in a bitter expression. He never imagined that the outcome from the first time he used the grade 5 spirit spear his grandfather refined would be like this. Of course, he knew that this was a fact that couldn't be changed. Even if he possessed a grade 4 spirit weapon or grade 3 spirit weapon, he might not be a match for Su Li. Su Li didn't use a spirit weapon, yet his strength was sufficient to exert the strength of an ancient horned dragon by only relying on his origin energy and advanced sword force. If he were to utilize a spirit weapon, Su Li's strength would undoubtedly be even more terrifying. In terms of strength, Su Li far surpassed him. It was a good fight. Su Li nodded to Luo Zhan before withdrawing. Presently, practically all the gazes from the people present had descended onto Su Li. They never imagined that this young man that wasn't well known would actually possess such a terrifying strength. This Su Li's natural talent is simply close to being comparable to Duan Ling Tian. As expected, birds of a feather flock together. Not only is this Su Li a friend of Duan Ling Tian's, he's a freak just like Duan Ling Tian. A wave of discussion sounded out in the surrounding crowd of spectators. Su Li, I never expected that you've actually comprehended advanced sword force. Congratulations. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he looked at Su Li. Su Li replied with a smile, and his eyes emitted battle intent. Duan Ling Tian, I wasn't a match for you many years ago, but the current me is already not the past me any longer. Although Su Li didn't say it, yet his words revealed the intention to challenge Duan Ling Tian. Su Li, you might not be a match for me, Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. As far as he was concerned, with his spiritual force at the 6th level of the void prying stage now, once he executed his soul skill, 1,000 illusions, Su Li would surely be affected. After all, Su Li wasn't an inscription master. We'll only know after trying. Su Li smiled confidently. The friends from a long time ago were now standing on the same stage now, and they were standing in opposition with each other. I'll wait and see. Duan Ling Tian nodded. The first round had ended. After resting for a short moment, the second round began. Qi Ming looked towards Sword Young Master, Chen Xiao Shui, and he continued. Now, it's the turn of the possessor of lot number 1 to issue a challenge. You can challenge anyone. Chen Xiao Shui walked into the battlefield with large strides, and his gaze shot directly onto Luo Zhan. Luo Zhan. Chen Xiao Shui's eyes revealed raging battle intent. Before last night, he hadn't broken through to the 4th level of the void prying stage, and he felt that he wasn't a match for Luo Zhan. Now, He who had broken through to the 4th level of the void prying stage had the confidence to fight Luo Zhan. Of course, he only had confidence. The battle between Sword Young Master and Crazy Young Master was undoubtedly an extremely spectacular battle of two evenly matched opponents. The both of them were similarly one of the 5 great young masters, and both of them were martial artists at the 4th level of the void prying stage that had comprehended half-step advanced force. Furthermore, their combat experience was almost equal. In the end, it was Crazy Young Master, Luo Zhan, who'd relied on the advantage of his half-step advanced fire force that belonged to the ranks of forces of nature, and he barely won against Chen Xiaoshui. Luo Zhan, I'll surely defeat you after I comprehend advanced sword force. Although Chen Xiaoshui lost at the hands of Luo Zhan, yet he wasn't discouraged, and he instead spoke out confidently. Luo Zhan nodded when he heard this, and he felt slight pressure in his heart. As a sword cultivator, Chen Xiaoshui was extremely devoted to the sword. In the past, the speed of Chen Xiaoshui's comprehension of sword force had far surpassed the speed Luo Zhan comprehended fire force. It was very likely that Chen Xiaoshui would comprehend advanced force before him. At that time, unless he'd comprehended advanced fire force as well, it would be impossible for him to be a match for Chen Xiaoshui. Possessor of lot number 2. After Luo Zhan obtained victory, Qi Ming looked towards Flame Young Master. Zhang Yan entered the battlefield. Right at this moment, a wave of whispered discussion caused Zhang Yan's expression to turn livid, and it was extremely unsightly. This Flame Young Master is undoubtedly the existence at the bottom amongst them, yet he still dares to enter the battlefield now and isn't afraid of losing face. Exactly. What third prince? He has truly lost face for the imperial family. Flame Young Master, Zhang Yan, the 3rd prince of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and an existence that was ranked as the 2nd amongst the 5 great young masters. In the past, he obtained a myriad of honor, yet now, he'd become the target of ridicule for others. Imperial Father. In next to no time, Zhang Yan noticed that his imperial father, the Emperor of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, seemed as if no feelings were aroused in him as he heard the words of ridicule directed at Zhang Yan. The Emperor had a calm expression that was neither happy nor enraged. Could it be that Imperial Father thinks I'm inferior to them as well? He looks down on me as well. Zhang Yan's heart shook as the corners of his mouth were filled with a bitter smile. Before long, Zhang Yan's gaze became firm. The current me is already not like I was before. Zhang Yan's back was ramrod straight, his gaze like a bolt of lightning, and his entire body was brimming with energy. Under the gazes of everyone present, Zhang Yan's gaze focused onto the violet-clothed youth in the distance. Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian? This Zhang Yan wants to challenge Duan Ling Tian. Has he gone mad? Even Saber Young Master, an existence at the 5th level of the void prying stage lost at the hands of Duan Ling Tian. He actually dares challenge Duan Ling Tian. Courting death. No one looked favorably upon Zhang Yan. Zhang Yan wasn't shaken by the wave of ridicule coming from the surroundings, and his gaze was extremely firm. He chose to challenge Duan Ling Tian after careful consideration. Presently, the opponents he was able to choose were only Duan Ling Tian, Su Li, and Long Yun. Amongst the other 2 people, because he'd lost at the hands of Sword Young Master earlier, he was unable to challenge Sword Young Master again. As for Crazy Young Master, he'd just fought a battle with Sword Young Master, so he couldn't be challenged in this round. So, only 3 choices remained, and amongst these 3 choices, he was most unwilling to face Su Li. This red-clothed young man with a mysterious background was completely unknown of before today. But the strength that Su Li revealed earlier instead caused one to be extremely shocked. Not to mention Su Li's cultivation was at the 6th level of the void prying stage. He'd also comprehended advanced sword force. Next, he was unwilling to face Saber Young Master, Long Yun, this figure that was ranked at the bottom amongst the 5 great young masters. In the past, he'd always looked down upon Long Yun and had never imagined that there would be a day that Long Yun would surpass him. But when Long Yun fought Duan Ling Tian earlier, the 5th level void prying stage cultivation that Long Yun revealed and the half-step advanced saber force caused him to realize that the strength of this saber young master had already completely surpassed him. The current Long Yun wasn't someone he could go against. Even if he'd comprehended half-step advanced force, it was still impossible. So he chose Duan Ling Tian. Although Duan Ling Tian had killed the Black Fiend sect Sun Rue, who was a 6th-level Void Prying Stage martial artist earlier, and defeated the 5th-level Void Prying Stage Saber Young Master. But during this process, Duan Ling Tian didn't use his own strength to defeat them, but had instead relied on that bizarre demonic technique. Demonic technique. Let me see if Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique is able to affect me. Bright lights flickered within Zhang Yan's eyes. He chose Duan Ling Tian precisely because he had the mentality that a fluke might happen. He felt that Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique might not be able to affect him. As far as he was concerned, he would surely lose if he went against Su Li and Long Yun, and he would perhaps have a trace of hope if he went against Duan Ling Tian. Although the hope wasn't great, but it was better than nothing. Whoosh! Duan Ling Tian stepped out with a calm expression to confront Zhang Yan. Zhang Yan challenging him had exceeded his expectations, but with a quick thought, he guessed Zhang Yan's thoughts. Duan Ling Tian, let me see if your demonic technique is really so bizarre. Zhang Yan shouted out with a grim voice. Then his figure roiled like the wind as he flashed straight towards Duan Ling Tian. In the sky, 6,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out behind him with an imposing manner that shot up into the sky like a rainbow. Since you want to experience it, then I'll fulfill your wish. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed as a dim light flashed into appearance in the depths of his eyes. 1,000 illusions. At this instant, Duan Ling Tian had utilized his soul skill once more. Whirlwind. At the same time, he stomped on the ground and dodged to the side. Under the gazes of every present, Zhang Yan pounced onto the place Duan Ling Tian stood at earlier and caused a wave of piercingly cold howls of the wind. But Duan Ling Tian had already left that place long ago. Duan Ling Tian die, Zhang Yan shouted out explosively as he pointed out with his finger, and an origin energy finger force shot out. Surrounding the origin energy finger force was strands of blue color energy twined around, and it was precisely the half-step advanced water force Zhang Yan had comprehended not too long ago. The people present were all extremely shocked when they saw the 500 ancient mammoth silhouettes that appeared above Zhang Yan at the side of the existing ancient mammoth silhouettes that had already been amplified by the Grade 5 spirit weapon. Flame Young Master has actually comprehended half-step advanced water force. When he fought Sword Young Master earlier, he only executed elementary water force. What's going on? Looks like Flame Young Master has just comprehended half-step advanced water force. In next to no time, every saw that even though Zhang Yan had comprehended half-step advanced water force, he was like a headless fly before Duan Ling Tian, and he blasted around in disorder. He was unable to touch Duan Ling Tian in the slightest. Demonic technique. The pupils of most people couldn't help but constrict. It's about time to end it. Duan Ling Tian's gaze was cold and indifferent as his figure swayed like the wind and arrived behind Zhang Yan in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! He swung out his arm that was like a raging python that had swung out its tail, and it approached Zhang Yan with great force. Bang! Duan Ling Tian's arm smashed onto Zhang Yan's back, blasting Zhang Yan flying. Zhang Yan fell onto the ground in a sorry state, and his face was covered with dust and dirt. When he returned to his senses and saw Duan Ling Tian, who was completely unharmed, his face went gloomy. No, impossible. It's impossible. Now, Zhang Yan was able to understand the feelings of Sun Rue and Long Yun. Earlier, he'd obviously heavily injured Duan Ling Tian. But in the blink of an eye, after the enormous force that came from behind had blasted him flying, he noticed that everything from before was fake. It was all a dream. The possessor of lot number 3, Duan Ling Tian, is victorious, Qi Ming announced. Where did Duan Ling Tian learn this demonic technique? It's truly shocking. Yeah, if I knew Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique, then wouldn't I be able to walk around unhindered? Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique ought to have a restriction, Otherwise, he'd probably have slaughtered his way to the Azure Forest Trisect and taken revenge for the Seven-Star Sword Sect long ago. The surrounding crowd of spectators discussed animatedly. Squeak, squeak. Suddenly, the little gold mouse who slept on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder had awoken, and she sized up the surroundings with interest. In next to no time, it was the turn of the possessor of lot number 4 to issue a challenge. The possessor of lot number 4 was Long Yun. Long Yun's gaze locked onto Chun Xiao Shuai. Sword young master. I admit defeat. When he saw Long Yun challenge him, Chun Xiao Shuai wasn't surprised in the slightest, and he shrugged as he spoke indifferently. Perhaps the past Long Yun wasn't a match for him, but the current Long Yun had already surpassed him. He knew his own limitations. Lot number 5. Qi Ming spoke out, and Luo Zhan entered the battlefield. Luo Zhan had already fought Chun Xiao Shuai, and he'd admitted defeat before Duan Ling Tian earlier. So, he only had 3 people to choose from. Luo Zhan's gaze flashed past Long Yun and Su Li, and in the end, it locked onto Zhang Yan. Flame young master. The gloominess on Zhang Yan's face was completely swept away when he was challenged by Luo Zhan, and he walked out with large strides. He knew that this battle was the chance for him to prove himself. Zhang Yan looked at Luo Zhan with surging battle intent in his eyes, and he shouted out with a grim voice. Luo Zhan, I'll defeat you. That would depend on if you have the ability. Luo Zhan's expression was slightly heavy, yet he wasn't courteous in the slightest with his speech. After he knew that Zhang Yan had comprehended half-step advanced water force, he more or less had slight fear towards Zhang Yan. Since ancient times, water countered fire, and this was an iron law. If it was elementary water force, his half-step advanced water force would be unafraid. But a half-step advanced water force just happened to be his counter. Fortunately, grandfather refined a grade 5 spirit spear for me, and its amplification surpasses the grade 5 spirit weapon in Zhang Yan's possession. Otherwise, I might not be a match for Zhang Yan. Luo Zhan thought in his heart, and he felt slightly lucky. Between him and Zhang Yan, in terms of age, there was almost no difference between the two of them. In terms of battle experience, they were on par. In terms of cultivation, they were the same. In terms of force, because water countered fire, Luo Zhan was slightly inferior. In terms of spirit weapon, Luo Zhan had an advantage. As you wish. Zhang Yan shouted out explosively. Then his figure swayed like the wind as the howls of the wind sounded out. Luo Zhan's eyes squinted as the origin energy on his legs rages, and he moved as well. Luo Zhan, do you dare take a finger strike from me? Accompanying Zhang Yan's figure that swayed like the wind was his voice that suddenly sounded out, and it contained extremely great confidence mixed within. Why wouldn't I? Luo Zhan stopped moving, the spirit spear in his hand exceedingly straight, an origin energy that seemed to have transformed into numerous milky, white little snakes flowed on it. Surrounding the bodies of this little snakes was strands of fiery red energy, and the energy was ceaselessly leaping about and surging. Half-step advanced fire force. Right at this moment, Zhang Yan's figure moved to charge towards Luo Zhan, and he pointed out his finger. Swish. The finger force that was condensed from origin energy tore through the sky, and it carried along strands of raging blue-colored energy as it pointed towards Luo Zhan. Bring it on. Luo Zhan shouted out as the spirit spear in his hand abruptly pierced out, and it accurately intercepted the origin energy point force of Zhang Yan. Whoosh. This spirit spear shot out, seeming like a WYRM that had left its cave, and its imposing might shout into the sky like a rainbow. Bang. The spirit spear fiercely smashed onto the origin energy point force, and it shattered the origin energy point force. Whereas the origin energy and half-step advanced fire force on the spirit spear was completely consumed because of this as well. The hand Luo Zhan held the spear with shook as his body trembled, and he took 3 steps back, whereas Zhang Yan wasn't alright as well. He took 3 steps back successively, and his face flushed slightly rosy. Again, Zhang Yan's gaze abruptly went cold as his body flashed out. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Numerous origin energy finger forces that were extremely swift seemed like the sharp spike on the back of a hedgehog as they swept towards Luo Zhan. Luo Zhan stood with his spear held horizontally, and he was like an undefeatable war god. When faced with the numerous point forces from Zhang Yan, Luo Zhan made his move. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Every time the spear in Luo Zhan's hand flashed out, it was as if it was assisted by the gods, and it would accurately intercept the numerous finger forces of Zhang Yan. Bang, 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 bang. The ear-piercing sounds of origin energy blasting together sounded out endlessly. After a short while, Luo Zhan and Zhang Yan had fought over 100 moves, yet they were equally matched. After Zhang Yan comprehended half-step advanced water force, he's actually able to fight Luo Zhan to a tie. Duan Ling Tian was slightly surprised. Not only was Duan Ling Tian surprised, the other people were surprised as well. I truly never imagined that Flame Young Master had comprehended half-step advanced water force all of a sudden, and is even able to battle Crazy Young Master equally. If Flame Young Master fought Sword Young Master now, then he might not lose. Yeah, the force Flame Young Master has comprehended is a force of nature, and besides being able to improve offensive power, it's also able to improve speed, whereas Sword Young Master's sword force is only able to improve offensive power. The former's force possesses both speed and offensive ability, whereas the force of the latter is only able to improve offensive ability. With Flame Young Master's speed now after his half-step advanced water force fused into his origin energy, it's sufficient to place him in an invincible position against Sword Young Master. Those people that ridiculed Zhang Yan earlier had now turned it around and praised Zhang Yan. After a short moment, Zhang Yan and Luo Zhan had fought another few tens of moves, yet the outcome was still unable to be decided. In the end, Qi Ming said, "If this goes on, then even if the both of you are exhausted, it would be difficult for the both of you to decide on the victor of the battle. This battle was be considered to be a tie." A tie? Luo Zhan and Zhang Yan frowned. Yet although they were unwilling, they knew that this was the best outcome. Neither of them had any objections. Lot number 6. Subsequently, Qi Ming looked at Su Li. Su Li was the possessor of lot number 6. After Su Li entered the battlefield, his gaze shot at Chen Xiao Shuai. Sword Young Master. I admit defeat. Chen Xiao Shuai had a complicated gaze as he spoke directly. When Su Li has just shown himself, Chen Xiao Shuai still had the thought of competing with Su Li in his heart. But after he witnessed Su Li's true strength, he'd completely lost any thoughts to fight Su Li. 6th level of the Void Prying Stage. Advanced Sword Force. No matter which accomplishment it was something that was difficult for him to reach. Su Li's strength had exceeded his expectations. Perhaps only Duan Ling Tian might be able to defeat this Su Li by using his demonic technique. Chen Xiao Shuai thought in his heart and looked at Duan Ling Tian. As far as he was concerned, even though Su Li was in existence at the 6th level of the Void Prying Stage, but it ought to be difficult for him to withstand Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique. After all, that Black Fiend sect Sun Rue was in existence at the 6th level of the Void Prying Stage as well, yet he'd fallen under Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique. Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique was unfathomable and impossible to defend against. The second round came to an end. Next, it was the third round. The possessor of lot number 1, Chen Xiao Shuai, had defeated Zhang Yan, lost to Luo Zhan, and admitted defeat before Long Yun and Su Li. Now he could only challenge Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian. Chen Xiao Shuai glanced at Duan Ling Tian. Then he looked at Qi Ming. Vice Dean Qi, I'm not a match for Duan Ling Tian. I admit defeat. Qi Ming nodded, and then he announced. The possessor of lot number 1, Chen Xiao Shuai, has obtained one of the 5 positions. The genius competition today was mainly for the sake of deciding on 5 people from the 6 of them. The rule was that so long as they obtained a single victory, they would be able to obtain one of the 5 positions. Chen Xiao Shuai had once defeated Zhang Yan, so he'd obtained a victory. Lot number 2. Subsequently, Qi Ming's gaze descended onto Zhang Yan, whereas Zhang Yan was only able to choose Long Yun and Su Li. He chose Long Yun, and then admitted defeat. After that, it was the turn of the possessor of lot number 3, Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian's current combat results were: Sword Young Master, admitted defeat. Crazy Young Master, admitted defeat. Flame Young Master, defeated. Saber Young Master, defeated. So, Duan Ling Tian only had one remaining choice. Suli. Whoosh. Before Duan Ling Tian spoke out, Suli took a stride forward and stood out. His gaze descended onto Duan Ling Tian, and the corners of his mouth curled into a rare wisp of a smile. Duan Ling Tian, let me have a good battle with you today. Suli, you might not be a match for me, Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. As far as he was concerned, since Suli wasn't an inscription master, Suli would surely be unable to withstand the soul skill, Thousand Illusions, that he executed with his spiritual force that was at the 6th level of the void prying stage. I precisely want to experience your ability. Strong battle intent arose in Su Li's eyes as he spoke slowly. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Instantly, a dim light flickered deep within his eyes. Thousand Illusion. Instantly, Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force fused into his soul brand, and he executed his soul skill. An illusory space that was constructed out of thin air enveloped Su Li within it. Whoosh. Right at this moment, along with a sword appeared in Su Li's hand, origin energy raged and surged on his body. At the same time, strands of peerlessly sharp aura that was fierce suffused the sword in his hand. Advanced sword force. At this moment, Su Li's entire body seemed as if it had fused into one with the sword in his hand, and the advanced sword force on his body shot into the sky. Right at the instant, Su Li took a step forward and was intending to attack. Duan Ling Tian's expression abruptly went absent-minded, because he'd noticed that the illusory space had actually shattered. It has shattered? Duan Ling Tian was stunned. Duan Ling Tian had a stunned expression when he saw the illusory space vanish without a trace. Thousand Illusion. Thousand Illusion. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian tried a few more times, and the illusory space was still obliterated in succession in the end. Of course, the successive failures allowed him to find the reason for this. Advanced force is actually able to counter my illusion space. Duan Ling Tian gasped to himself. This was a great discovery. My spiritual force isn't strong enough and is unable to go against the advanced force. Perhaps, only after my spiritual force advances a step further would it be able to withstand this advanced force. Looks like my soul skill, Thousand Illusions, is not only unable to deal with 6th level void prying stage inscription masters, and is similarly unable to deal with 6th level void prying stage martial artists that have comprehended advanced force. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Duan Ling Tian. Su Li saw that Duan Ling Tian was slightly absent-minded, and he spoke out in reminder. He wasn't willing to win because of Duan Ling Tian's absent-mindedness. Duan Ling Tian returned to his senses when he heard Su Li's voice. Then he smiled lightly. I admit defeat. After he finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian directly withdrew from the battlefield under the numerous gazes of disbelief. Duan Ling Tian has admitted defeat. Why did he admit defeat? After all, even if it was the Black Fiend sect's elder son Rue, an existence at the 6th level of the void prying stage, he was still killed by Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique. A 6th level void prying stage martial artist ought to be unable to escape from Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique. Looks like Duan Ling Tian admitted defeat willingly. It ought to be so. The surrounding crowd of spectators thought that Duan Ling Tian had admitted defeat willingly. After all, everyone present knew that Duan Ling Tian and Su Li were friends. Moreover, they were friends with a deep relationship. Duan Ling Tian. Su Li frowned as he thought that Duan Ling Tian intentionally let him win. Su Li, don't listen to their nonsense. If I had the confidence, it would be impossible for me to not fight you. I indeed don't have the slightest confidence today. Duan Ling Tian looked at Su Li and shook his head as he spoke via voice transmission. But I might be inferior to you today, but in the future, you might not be a match for me. Bright lights shot out from Duan Ling Tian's eyes. As far as he was concerned, so long as his spiritual force advanced a step further, the illusory space he created would surely be able to withstand the advanced force. I anticipated extremely. Su Li nodded and smiled when he heard Duan Ling Tian, and his eyes were filled with battle intent. Along with Duan Ling Tian admitted defeat, the outcome of the genius competition came out quickly. Su Li won 5 battles and was ranked first. Duan Ling Tian won 4 battles and lost 1 battle and was ranked second. Long Yun won 3 battles and lost 2 battles and was ranked third. Luo Zhan won 1 battle, tied 1 battle, and lost 3 battles and was ranked fourth. Chen Xiao Shuai won 1 battle and lost 4 battles and was ranked fifth. Zhang Yin tied 1 battle and lost 4 battles and was ranked sixth. Imperial Father Zhang Yin was extremely unsatisfied with this outcome, and he looked at the emperor and said, "I want to fight another battle with Chen Xiao Shuai. The reason I lost to him earlier was because I still hadn't comprehended half-step advanced water force." "What you mean is you can defeat him now?" The emperor glanced indifferently at Zhang Yin as he asked. "Yes." Zhang Yin had a confident expression. The emperor's gaze descended onto Chen Xiao Shuai. "Sword Young Master, according to the rules of the genius competition, his request doesn't conform with the rules. Are you willing to agree to this request of his? It's all right if you're unwilling." For a time, the gazes of everyone present descended onto Sword Young Master. Most people felt that Sword Young Master wouldn't agree to this unreasonable request. Only Duan Ling Tian saw Chen Xiao Shuai, who was deep in thought, and Duan Ling Tian seemed as if he thought of something. "I agree." In the end, Chen Xiao Shuai nodded. He agreed. Instantly, the surrounding crowd of spectators were dumbstruck. Is something wrong with this Sword Young Master's head? Many people felt speechless as they spoke. "Haha, Sword Young Master, you're finally like a man." Zhang Yin was slightly perturbed earlier, but now that he saw Chen Xiao Shuai agree, he instantly started laughing loudly in excitement. As far as he was concerned, so long as he defeated Sword Young Master and trampled on Sword Young Master beneath his feet, he would be able to obtain one of the 5 positions, whereas Sword Young Master would be eliminated. "Flame Young Master." Chen Xiao Shuai looked at Zhang Yin and said indifferently, "I can agree to your challenge, but I have a condition. If you agree to it, then I'll fight you. If you don't agree, then take it as I never agreed." "What condition?" Zhang Yin frowned as he asked. Chen Xiao Shuai said, "The condition is, you're only able to obtain the position that originally belonged to me if you defeat me. If you lose, or if we fight to a tie, that position is still mine." "I was wondering what sort of condition you would speak of." "I can agree to this condition. If I can't defeat you, then I'd have no face to occupy that position." Zhang Yin spoke as if what Chen Xiao Shuai said was a matter of course, and his tone was filled with confidence. In next to no time, Chen Xiao Shuai and Zhang Yin started battling. Chen Xiao Shuai seemed to have prepared since long ago, and he stood on the spot, not moving like a mountain, whereas Zhang Yin instead used his half-step advanced water force to fuel his movement technique and start flashing around. His speed was so swift that it wasn't something Chen Xiao Shuai could compare to. But Zhang Yin was quickly stunned, because he noticed that Chen Xiao Shuai never had the intention of chasing after him from the beginning until the end. Gradually, Zhang Yin lost his patience. Swish! With a raise of his hand, Zhang Yin pointed out, and the origin energy point force flashed towards Chen Xiao Shuai as it caused piercing howls to sound out in the air. Chen Xiao Shuai finally made a move. His sword light flashed, seeming like a bolt of lightning that was swift to the extreme, and it chased up to Zhang Yan's origin energy point force in a short moment before shattering it. In terms of offense, because of occupying an advantage from his spirit weapon, Chen Xiao Shuai had a slight advantage over Zhang Yan. After all, Zhang Yan's water force didn't counter his sword force, so that's how it is. When he saw Zhang Yan impatiently attacking Chen Xiao Shuai, whereas Chen Xiao Shuai smoothly blocked the attack, Duan Ling Tian's gaze lit up as he came to a sudden understanding. In terms of attack, Chen Xiao Shuai had a slight advantage over Zhang Yan. In terms of speed, Chen Xiao Shuai was inferior to Zhang Yan. So, Chen Xiao Shuai chose to defend and not attack. Because he knew that if he were to blindly attack, it would give Zhang Yan an opportunity to take advantage of. So this is what Sword Young Master was planning. In this way, Sword Young Master would surely be in an invincible position. Before long, many people had guessed Chen Xiao Shuai's intentions. Zhang Yan reacted to what was happening, and his face went gloomy as he looked at Chen Xiao Shuai, and said with explosive rage, "Sword young master, could it be that you don't even have the balls to attack me?" Obviously, Zhang Wan wanted to prod Chen Xiaoshui into action. However, Chen Xiaoshui disregarded Zhang Yan, and he had a calm expression. Zhang Yan's expression was exceedingly gloomy. After waiting for a period of time and noticing that it was impossible for Chen Xiaoshui to take the initiative to attack, Zhang Yan launched an attack once more. If he were to continue wasting energy like this, it would only be a tie, and he would be eliminated. Only now did he realize that Sword Young Master had planned everything all along. Swish, 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 swish. Numerous material origin energy point forces tore through the sky and swept towards Chen Xiaoshui, whereas every single time, the sword in Chen Xiaoshui's hand would be able to smash Zhang Yan's origin energy point force in a timely manner. Only Chen Xiaoshui's movement technique speed was slow, but the sword in his hand wasn't slow in the slightest. Sword force was unable to make his movement speed increase, but it was able to increase the speed of his sword. In the end, the battle between Chen Xiaoshui and Zhang Yan ended with a tie. According to Chen Xiaoshui's conditions from before, Zhang Yan had narrowly lost the opportunity to obtain one of the 5 positions. Humph. The emperor glanced at Zhang Yan indifferently, and then he snorted lightly. Zhang Yan's figure trembled when he heard this. He knew that he'd caused his imperial father to be disappointed. All 5 of you gather at the imperial palace 3 days from now to head to the Darkstone Empire. The emperor's gaze swept past Duan Ling Tian and the other 4 of them. Duan Ling Tian and the others nodded in agreement. Subsequently, the gaze of the emperor descended onto Luo Rong. "Guildmaster Luo, I'll be taking my leave first." "Take care, Your Majesty." Luo Rong nodded. After the emperor left, the genius competition came to an end. Zhang Yan dragged along his solitary figure as he walked step by step into the depths of the imperial palace. There was a pavilion that belonged to him over there. This time, he didn't pester Flute Fairy, Ziyan. The other people dispersed as well. When Duan Ling Tian left, he noticed that 2 burning gazes had descended onto him. These 2 gazes were filled with killing intent. The owners of these gazes were precisely from Prince Sheng and the Little Prince. "Father, could it be that we'll just allow Duan Ling Tian to head to the Darkstone Empire?" Zhang Heng had an unwilling expression. "Don't worry. He's unable to arrive at the Darkstone Empire." Prince Sheng's eyes were filled with extreme killing intent. "It's impossible for a person that has humiliated my Prince Sheng's estate to stay alive." "Father, you have a plan?" Zhang Heng's eyes lit up when he heard this, and the gloominess on his face was washed away completely. Prince Sheng nodded. Outside the imperial palace at this moment, within the spacious coach of a leaving carriage was 5 people sitting there. Only 3 people were inside the carriage when it arrived. Duan Ling Tian, Luo Rong, and Luo Zhan. Yet at this moment, there was an extra 2 people. Chen Xiaoshui and Su Li. "Su Li, exactly what fortuitous encounter did you acquire during these past few years? You actually possess such a shocking cultivation." Duan Ling Tian looked at Su Li and asked via voice transmission. Su Li replied via voice transmission. Duan Ling Tian. "Not long after I left Paladin Academy that day, I brought my parents along to leave their original residence. Later on, I entered into the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom to wander about by myself, and I just happened to meet my current master." As he finished speaking, Su Li's eyes were filled with respect. Obviously, he respected that master of his extremely. "Master?" Duan Ling Tian was stunned. There was someone in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom that was able to foster an extraordinary genius in the martial Tao like Su Li? "Yes." Su Li nodded. "Your master is someone from the Azure Forest Trisect?" Duan Ling Tian frowned as he asked. The voice transmission this time contained a low and deep tone mixed within. The reason Duan Ling Tian guessed like this was because Su Li had called Long Yun as junior brother long earlier, whereas Long Yun was a member of the formed demonic Lotus Blade sect, and he was also a member of the Azure Forest Trisect now. Azure Forest Trisect? The corners of Su Li's mouth curled into a wisp of disdain when he heard Duan Ling Tian's words. "My master is completely unrelated to that Azure Forest Trisect. Besides that, that Long Yun's master isn't a member of the Azure Forest Trisect as well. Not a member of the Azure Forest Trisect? Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh of relief. Otherwise, he would really not know how to face this old friend of his, Su Li. Do you know the background of that master of yours? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. Su Li shook his head. I don't know. Master has always been mysterious. However, according to what he said, he ought to be from an extremely far place. He also has a senior brother which is lifelong rival, and that is Long Yun's master. Duan Ling Tian came to a sudden understanding. He remembered that Long Yun and Su Li had arrived one after the other at the Imperial Palace today. Long Yun seemed to have mentioned a martial uncle sword, whereas Su Li seemed to have mentioned a martial uncle saber. Su Li knew nothing of the background of his own master and the master of Long Yun, and it was even to the extent that he didn't even know exactly how strong his master was. I only know that master seemed to have been wandering here, whereas that martial uncle saber had instead followed master all the way here. Su Li continued. They're sworn enemies? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. How did you know? Su Li couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this. Duan Ling Tian smiled as a matter of course. From the beginning until the end, there was quite a great deal of hostility between you and Long Yun. Besides that, since that martial uncle saber of yours had followed your master to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, I presume it wasn't likely that they would be junior and senior brothers with a good relationship. Their relationship isn't good indeed. That martial uncle saber has always refused to concede defeat before my master, and it's to the extent that after a period time, he would repeatedly look for my master for a battle. When he spoke up to hear, the corners of Su Li's mouth curled into a faint smile. But unfortunately for him, that martial uncle saber would lose every single time. Subsequently, Su Li said, as for Long Yun, he's the disciple that martial uncle saber took in later on. Martial uncle saber knew that it was extremely difficult for him to defeat my master in his lifetime. So, he had the thought of fostering a disciple that could defeat me. Martial uncle saber is extremely eager to succeed, and he must surpass my master in an aspect before he would let the matter drop. Su Li finished speaking in one go. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but shake his head, and he thought in his heart, looks like Su Li's master isn't simple, as he was able to allow Su Li to change so greatly in a short few years of time. As far as Duan Ling Tian was concerned, even if it was an expert that stood at the peak of the Darkhan dynasty, the expert might not be able to do this. In other words, it was extremely likely that Su Li's master was someone from the foreign lands, whereas Long Yun's master was extremely likely to be from the foreign lands as well. Duan Ling Tian, I haven't returned to the Crimson Sky Kingdom for a period of time. Are Xiao Yu, Xiao Sun, and Tian Hu well? Su Li looked at Duan Ling Tian as he asked. This time, he didn't use a voice transmission to speak, and his voice entered into the ears of everyone in the carriage. They're well. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as he nodded. I returned to the Crimson Sky Kingdom and saw them 2 years ago. That's good. Su Li nodded, and his gaze became slightly distant. In the blink of an eye, 6 or 7 years have passed. I presume they've changed a great deal. Time really passes quickly. Yeah, time and tide wait for no man. Duan Ling Tian agreed deeply. Both of you are young, yet you're sighing emotionally about time and tide waiting for no man. How do you think an old man like me feels? Luo Rong shook his head and smiled bitterly when he heard the conversation between Duan Ling Tian and Su Li. Duan Ling Tian, Su Li, tell us about your pasts. Chen Xiao Shuai's eyes flashed as he asked curiously. He's always been someone that acted like old friends with someone even on their first meeting. After Duan Ling Tian's introductions, they could be considered to have gotten to know Su Li and made friends with Su Li. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he casually spoke about some past things, and he mentioned more about the incident when Su Li left all those years ago. In other words, when Su Li left that day, his strength was far inferior to you? Luo Zhan looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Su Li, how did you pass these past few years? How did you come to possess this terrifying cultivation and comprehend advanced sword force? Chen Xiao Shuai had a dull expression as he looked at Su Li. He originally thought that Duan Ling Tian and Su Li's strength in the past ought to be almost the same. But who would have imagined that at that time? Su Li's strength was actually inferior to Duan Ling Tian. Although Luo Rong didn't speak, his muddy eyes flashed with an imperceptible bright light. Su Li's improvement had caused him to feel disbelief. It was only luck. Su Li smiled lightly and didn't intend to speak of it in detail. Luo Zhan and Chun Xiao Shui were both intelligent people, and they didn't ask any further. Luck is a part of strength as well. Right at this moment, Luo Zhan put a rare word in. Su Li, if you don't have a place to stay during these few days, then come stay at the Weapons Craftsman Guild first. Duan Ling Tian looked at Su Li and suggested. Su Li looked at Luo Rong when he heard this. I have no problems with that. I just don't know if I'll be disturbing Guild Master Luo. You're not. Luo Rong hurriedly shook his head as he didn't dare be discourteous to a person that Duan Ling Tian invited. Just like this, Su Li temporarily stayed on the 5th floor of the Weapons Craftsman Guild. Luo Rong had always stayed at the 5th floor by himself, and for a time, it became filled with noise and excitement. The next day, Duan Ling Tian stayed in his room and cultivated with a calm heart. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, lightning WIRM form. Duan Ling Tian's mind was immersed in his cultivation, and it was cut off from the world. Master, Duan Ling Tian only returned to his senses when a voice transmission came from outside the room and entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. Is there something you need? Duan Ling Tian was able to discern that this was Luo Rong's voice. Master, there's news of the thing you're looking for. Luo Rong's voice transmission sounded out once more. What? Luo Rong's voice transmission caused Duan Ling Tian, who had just awoken from cultivation and was slightly dazed, to shudder, and he instantly sobered up. Is it Phoenix Wing Herb or Ageless Root? Duan Ling Tian revealed a pleasantly surprised expression, and he asked with slight excitement. He was able to guess that this thing Luo Rong mentioned would surely be one of these two things.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.